Blessings of the day. Welcome to part 3 of a topic we've been taking a close look at for the past, 2 weeks. And many people, of course, have learned more than they anticipated learning. And of course, it seems like every time I do a broadcast, the internet loses its mind, which is it's okay, it's okay. So I'm just going to put the title up here so that we can be reminded of why we're here and what we're talking about. Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to do briefly is let's get some optics on the screen. Let's do that. Okay. And in fact, we'll hide this for a second. Oh no, that's fine right where it is because that's actually going to be here. Okay. So again, welcome. I am the Sebaware Shakka-Ahmose. That means the I don't want to say great, but that means the teacher of significance. Okay, in my case, you shouldn't toot your own horn. All right. So as you can see, what the title is, supposedly no documentation of Egyptian Virgin Goddess Isis. Pastors lie to their churches, part 3. So being that that's the title, you know why we're here, and you know what we're here to discuss, okay, and to explicate upon, and to take a deeper dive. If you have friends that or family members that are into this sort of dialogue, discourse, and topic, I highly recommend that you contact them right now so that they can enjoy this live with you. Don't be selfish. Share the knowledge, share the access. I'm sharing the knowledge, I'm imparting it, but you can share the access to it. Send a text to someone who you think may want to hear more about this and who would appreciate hearing from someone with some relatively deep insight on these subject matters. Okay? So if my eyes look like they have closed, it's because I'm probably functioning on about 3 hours sleep. So I've been booked all over the place, so I have I have quite a few PowerPoints that I'm preparing all at the same time. And there are a lot of requests from other platforms for me to participate with their platform. And so I'm just trying to keep it all together. I'm very tired. I did go to the gym today. I did work out. I had a great workout. It was a leg day. So, I'm really tired. But that's okay. We're going to develop the stamina to plow through this with grace, integrity, and respect. At least as much as I can muster. Because you know me, I start getting in my feelings when the apparent stupidity of persons at large, makes its presence known. So normally I would contact people on what I call my sweet spot list. Those are people who really support me, who really ride with me, and who are really devoted to the knowledge and to the learning. I try to give that list a heads up to let them know I'm doing a live. In the future, the best way to get an alert that I'm going live is to make sure you're on my mailing list. Okay. The best way to get on my mailing list is very easily. Let me just, at least right now, the best way to get on it is to, I'm just going to furnish you with an email and put it on screen. And when you can, there's two ways you can get on my email list. So I would probably say one of the better ways to do it is, let me see. I have it right here. Just give me 1 second. I have a number of different links that I can choose from. I'm just choosing from what I think is the best one. Yeah, I think, So, in fact, it's in the description. Yeah, if you just go in the description, if you look in the description, I'm going to put it on screen though, so I'm not going to send you on an errand. So, but for those of you who are really interested in being on my mailing list, you can look in my you can look at my description of this video, and in it you'll see all my contact information. And when you send something, just say why. Just say mailing list. Just put mailing list. And so here you go. I just put something in the chat, and there you go. You can just send a contact me at that link. That's basically my website. It's my contact page on my website, Shakka-Ahmose.com. Go to the contact page on my website, and in the heading, just put mailing list. And when it comes through, I'll just add you to the mailing list. Okay. And who knows, you may automatically be added. Thank you so much, Vladimir. I appreciate you. For those of you who want to get a head start on paying for tonight's broadcast, because this is not a free broadcast, it is a paid broadcast. The catch is that I simply ask that you pay whatever you want. That's it. Whatever you want. Okay. It's not a handout. It's not a contribution. It's not begging for support. It is fair compensation for quality and good work done. Okay. And it adds dignity to the exchange. As was said in ancient Egypt, fahi irzunut fahi, value in exchange for value. So I'm giving you content of exceedingly well-researched value, or the value of exceedingly well-researched content. And in return, you make a visit to my Cash App and show your appreciation and let me know that you value the content. And the way to do that is fairly simple. You wait for me to put the Cash App link up. Actually, it's going to be on the screen in a second, but it's supposed to be pinned at the top of the YouTube chat. But you know what? Keeping in line with the commitment I've made to the platform, we've determined to, that's the contact. Hold on 1 second. That's interesting. Oh, you can tell I'm sleepy, boy. I tell you, I'm a big sleepyhead right now. No, I'm not. I'm not sleepy. We're going to speak positive. I am energized. You guys are going to motivate me, and I'm going to be psyched. Okay. So here you go. Okay. $ Shakka-Ahmose. That's all. $ Shakka-Ahmose. You can shout out to Vladimir. The preference is really Cash App because the YouTube, I forgot what you call those things. When people contribute funds to the platform. A super chat. Yeah, super chat. We don't really see that until like 4 months later. So it's like we even forget it's there, you know? So for much needed resources, because this people don't realize how much resources go into this, the amount of time and the amount of resources. It's a lot. It's more than you can imagine. So again, to add dignity to the whole process, I simply let people know that this is not a free broadcast, that it is what? I didn't mean to hit. Oh, I just saw that. Okay. All right. For a super chat, I think the appropriate thing to do, even though I don't care for super chat, I prefer Cash App, because as I said, we don't see, you don't really see the super chat money. But out of respect for the fact that Vladimir did exercise his generosity and his respect for the platform by submitting the super chat, I'm going to answer his question before we get started. Okay, hold on one second. Vladimir, you are funny. Oh man, that is so funny. I got to share that with everybody. I have to put that on screen, Vladimir. I have to put that on screen. That name Vladimir is all over the news these days, and I'm pretty sure we can all understand and appreciate why. It's a pretty powerful name if you understand the culture out of which it comes. So he says, I wanted advice. I live with a drunk roommate. I'm in the hotel. I'm going home tomorrow. Can you say a couple of encouraging words? I already love you so much. This is another 20. Please, I could use your wise majesty. Thank you. So Vladimir, I'm going to keep that up for a second. That's funny, yet my heart goes out to you, friend, because that must really be an unpleasant. It can be an unpleasant experience, depending on how you set your sail when dealing with it, right? You can either allow it to invade your inner space, because once something has invaded your inner space, that's a problem, right? It's a problem because it's interfering with your life. It's interfering with your peace of mind, or what we call hotep. It's interfering with your satisfaction. And so people with substance abuse problems come with a whole different set. They come with an exacerbated set of issues, of precarious issues that can complicate our own lives and our own existence. Here's the key thing, if we allow it to. So one of there are a few things that I would recommend and suggest that you do to make that situation healthy for you. Okay? That's the key thing. Make it healthy for you. And part of regaining your own peace of mind, Vladimir, is remembering that and being reminded of the fact that when you dwell on issues that are beyond your control, even if it's just for the time being, you're really torturing yourself because of the mere fact that it is beyond your control. So I'm going to quote someone who I consider a mentor to myself. He's an influencer that I respect greatly. His name is Tay Sweat, and I discovered him through T.C. Atkinson, and I love what he said. He's a financial mentor, teaches about the stock market and things of that nature. But as all endeavors of importance have in common, there's a particular psychology that has to be applied so that you could be successful in this situation, Vladimir. And so the same thing that applies to just getting your finances together. It's the same thing that applies to getting the rest of your life together. And in these intimate circumstances, having a drunk roommate, you want to remember this above all else. Don't dwell on what is beyond your control, but this is paramount. Control the controllables. Make a list, a short list or a long list, or in between. Make a list, Vladimir, of those things that you can control, those things that are within your control from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. Make a list of those. In other words, control the controllables. That's what Tay says, and I really appreciate and respect that. I'm going to highlight him on this show pretty soon, as I will be highlighting many influences that I respect. And so that's key. Control the controllables. And you'll be surprised when you make that list, you'll realize that there were more things in your control than you may have considered previously because you didn't take stock. You didn't make a list. You're just reacting, which brings me to my second point. You're going to have to begin to cultivate proactive behavior as opposed to reactive behavior, because reactive behavior will take all of the power away from you. And that person has already given up their own power, right? So since that person has already given up their own power in lieu of, or rather, by virtue of their dysfunctional relationship to alcohol, or by virtue of their substance abuse, they've already given up their own power. So that object is a vacuum in their life, right? It soaks up all of their power. Don't let it do the same to you. So you do that by controlling the controllables, by not reacting to their indiscretions and their violations. What you do is you get them, you kind of govern your relationship with them by getting them to respond through behavior to how you act. So you are going to have to be watchful and mindful of your behavior, because your behavior will send messages to them about what is acceptable and what is not. Okay? You're also going to have to consider things like leverage. What leverage do you have in your situation? Right? As well as, because leverage gives you a controllable. Okay, Vladimir? And I just wanted to give a substantive answer to his question. When people ask me for my perspective on things, I take that serious, because I take people serious, and I respect people. And so, being that he brought this subject up, particularly in concert with a super chat, he made a contribution to the platform and showed respect to the platform. That I think it's only right that his question be answered. And so that's pretty much the answer to my question. I mean, that's the answer that I have to your question, Vladimir. Control the controllables, right? Control the controllables, and engage in behavior that forces them to respond and react to your behavior with the behavior that you want to see from them. And that's why you need to take stock of what leverage you have. Take stock of your options, right? And examine very closely how you interact with them, the things you tolerate versus the things you don't, right? You're going to have to make boundaries and thresholds known and clear, okay? You're going to have to make boundaries and thresholds known and clear, right? So that there's no cross signals and no misinterpretation of anything. Very clear. You don't have to be, You don't have to be mean-spirited about it or disrespectful. Just, hey, look, this is what I need so that I'm not imposing on you and you're not imposing on me, right? Because we both want to be happy and healthy here. And healthy has to be the healthy has to be the operative word. So that's all. And if you work with people and give them an opportunity to work with you, you might be very surprised at what you're able to accomplish for yourself and for your situation. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there for Vladimir. Okay, I know, I can imagine what that's like. I know what it's like. I've had to live with people before in the past who had substance abuses, who were substance abusers, right? And also that can help to give you a very clear image of yourself. Count your blessings that you're not that person. Every time you see that person, that should be a wonderful, blessed reminder of how much better in life you are off than they are. I didn't say that you're a better human being than them, but because everybody has challenges, right? We have to be careful. Like, I can criticize people up and down the ladder, call them all kind of names, jerk, stupid, dummy, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't mean that I think that I'm a better human being than they are, right? I'm just sharing my opinion for what it's worth. Maybe even letting off some steam and getting some pent up resentment off my own chest. But that doesn't mean that I confuse my derogatory opinion of someone with the big picture reality. The big picture reality is that we are all contending with the worst part of ourselves, with the weaker aspects of ourselves. And some of us do a great job with it. Some of us have been given the tools early on in life with which to combat that situation appropriately, while many of us have to get those tools along the journey, which can make for a bumpy ride, but progress can be seen and noticed, right? Even and just because you make progress doesn't mean there aren't relapses. So sometimes I relapse with things like my short temper or distractions, excessive distractions or whatever. But you just, anytime you find yourself, Vladimir, I'm going to bring it to an end. Anytime you find yourself really immersed in and absorbed in, and that's another thing, listen to a lot of affirmations. Like when you wake up in the morning, because the conversation in your mind can get you to focus on things that you really shouldn't be focused on, because it's just going to add more stress. And adding more stress to a situation that's beyond your immediate control is not the best advice or the best action to take, right? So from the moment you open your eyes in the morning, make sure you're listening to positive affirmations. Make sure that your mind is preoccupied with thoughts that make your mind a friendly and warm and receptive environment for you to exist in and operate in. Okay? And they're all over YouTube. First thing you wake up in the morning, you can have affirmations for the morning, right? I like my morning affirmations to have energy. Like, I think people who make morning affirmations that are very meditative and calm, I think they're idiots. People are having a hard enough time waking up already. Why are you putting all this calm, meditative music behind your morning affirmation? It's going to make somebody want to get back into bed and go to sleep. I'm just saying that because I was dealing with that this morning. So I made a specific playlist for my morning affirmations so that they're energetic and I'm up and I'm not thinking about getting back into bed, right? So so I just wanted to put that out there, okay? And I hope that was helpful. If it was, you can visit my Cash App. Okay, which reminds me, people. Yeah. So and if you really want to get into deeper conversation, Vladimir, because you genuinely need just some responsible insight, book a session with me. Just go to my website, Shakka-Ahmose.com, and just book a 30-minute one-on-one with me. As I tell people, that's the best way to really, I think, it's the best way to communicate with me, because you really have my undivided attention for 30 minutes, you know? And while 30 minutes can go expeditiously, shout out to T.I., right? It could be a worthwhile 30 minutes if we know why we're there, what we're going to talk about beforehand. And when you sign up for the 30 minutes with me, it's called Shakka-Ahmose one-on-one, a 30-minute one-on-one, Shakka-Ahmose and you. The benefit that people get from those one-on-ones, I'm sure, are immeasurable, because they always come back, you know, always. And so that's what I would recommend, Vladimir. You know, those affirmations will really help, especially when you find that you're short of patience and you don't have psychological recourse to a level of patience that you just may need to have with this person. So don't let that person, don't give them more power, because the parent, and here's the reason why you really don't want to give them power, Vladimir, and I have to move on and get to the presentation. You don't want to give them power because they've already proved in their own life that they don't know how to handle power. They handle power irresponsibly, so they have a drinking problem. So the last thing you want to do is give that person more power. And one of the ways that we give people power is by giving them too much attention, right? Don't give them too much attention. Give them just enough attention so that indirectly and inadvertently, you're getting them to respond to you the way you need them to respond to you for your own sense of well-being and your own peace of mind, your own hotel, okay? And that's what you do, okay? This is sound counsel. I'm sure you can already appreciate it for what it's worth. And that's what I would recommend, because that can be hard for anybody. It can make life less than pleasurable, especially, and it can be an unnecessary distraction and dangerous if the person is really irresponsible, which reminds me, not that I have irresponsible people in my domicile, because I don't, but, you know, keep safety apparatuses close by, things like fire extinguishers and so on and so on. You know, just have a conversation with the person about quality of life and how you can both have a better quality of life if certain things are kept outside the home or within the confines of their own immediate space. That's it. And when they come out of their room or their wherever it is, however your setup is, that they are presentable in a certain way. That should be part of the agreement, you know? So that's all. So now, I hope that helped, Vladimir, you know? Okay, so one of the rules, wonderful, Vladimir. I'm glad. I hope that helped. Wonderful. I really genuinely hope that helped. You know, because living situations can be challenging, for anybody, and you know, and I hope you're smiling from the inside out in your soul, because that's where it counts. Okay, and yeah, those affirmations will really help. Because that conversation in your own mind, see what happens is that also people with adverse situations can hijack your own self-conversation, the conversation you're having with yourself. That's when it begins to eat away at your life. So you have to always be in control of that conversation in your own mind. And that's what the affirmations are very helpful with. Very, very. I mean, they are priceless, you know? So I strongly recommend it. They're all over YouTube. Just type in morning affirmations, afternoon affirmations, evening affirmations, and then find the one that you really like, that really resonate with you, whether because of the music or because of the video accompanying it, whatever it is, and just make various playlists for yourself. So that way you're constantly reminded of what's working in your life and what is going right for you, and you can focus on that, and that will lead you to more of that. Okay, and yeah. You know, and recommend they do the same. You can send some of the affirmations to them. You know, how to quit drinking or whatever. You know, help. Sometimes people just need a little bit of help, but don't make it your. It's not your baggage. It's theirs. Okay. So, do I Kabineti? So again, guys, I'm not going to go through the normal things that I normally do when I'm up here, because I'm really tired. Like I said, I'm running on like 2-3 hours sleep right now, And but I just wanted to really, because of the first 2 episodes of this that I did, the Christian buzz on social media is really, really having a field day. Like they salivate at the mouth. They can't wait for me to do a presentation so they can do a response to it. And I noticed I said a response, not a refutation. They respond to it. And so I had a choice. I can either respond to their response videos. And here's the reason why I'm not going to do that immediately. I heard a saying recently that I really, really liked. I'm so tired right now, I can't even remember where it came from. But the saying or the maxim said, you can't stop every time you hear a dog bark. You follow? You can't stop every time you hear a dog bark. Right? Shout out to Sun God. I'm going to allow them. I'm absolutely going to allow them to respond. Now, what they need to worry about is when I get bored and I have time on my hands and I decide to go get their video and make an example of how I'm going to try to find other epithets to use. When I make an example of how they don't really, their arms are too short to box with me. Okay. And I'm going to use their own words, their own videos, and their own text that they highlight, and the various video clips that they use to highlight their points or to substantiate their points. Right. I think one of them that stands out to me, which I think is absolutely hilarious, they've been making reference to some individual who was on another platform who said Isis was not a virgin and that she was a maiden. The IQ of this person has to be about this big, literally about this big. So one thing I don't do, let me tell you something. You better be careful when you get into a fray with the ignorant, because they will wear you down just by their sheer numbers. You know, they really will. Have you ever tried to push a lion seal or a walrus, one of these big animals? Try to push a lion seal or a walrus off of a block of ice, off of a sheet of ice in the Arctic. You're going to be struggling all day. You would think it would be easy because it's ice and it's slippery, so you should be able to push them into the water. No, you won't be able to push them. And that's what it's like many times trying to move ignorant people off of their premises. So it's really a waste of time. So I'm not talking to people who find sound reasoning in bad scholarship, in poor scholarship, or as things masquerading as scholarship. I'm not here for that, right? I'm here to show people the evidence. There was a claim made. We're going to get to it. In fact, before we do, there was a claim made that there was no documentation of Isis being worshipped as a virgin, and that was demonstrably proven and shown to be a lie. It was documented. Whether you agree with the documentation or not is another matter. But to say that there's no documentation of it, it was just a lie. And that has been substantiated if you go back to part 2 of this, part 1 and 2, I think, of this series, okay, of responding to some particular pastors. And a number of these videos are going to be in response to this urban apologetic community because they're responding to me, right? In their little small circles, in their little echo chambers, right? They don't have the guts to invite me on their platform. I don't know why. I know you're going to see this, Alfredo Valentin. Why don't you invite me on your platform so we can have some fun? Same thing with True ID. Why don't you invite me on the platform so we can have some fun? Right? Same thing with Vocab Malone. Why don't you invite me on the platform? Are you scared that your audience might see you get shown up? I don't need a PowerPoint to show you up. I'll show you up off the dome, straight up, in front of your parents, your children, your wives, your husband, your sisters, your congregation, all of it. We can just do it straight up on your platform. I'm open, right? You're open. You're more than welcome to come on my platform. right? I need somebody to show me how to work this thing so I can do it correctly. You're more than welcome to come on here, all of you, right? But you sit on your little in your little way stations, and this is why Shakka's wrong. Silly. But anyway, the reason why I'm not going to make response videos to them is because this ride that I'm on is actually leading to a greater summit. Okay? Right now, we're starting off in the valley with the basic stuff. This is just basic, right? I wanted to know why Pastor Eric Mason of Epiphany Fellowship in Fellowship Church in Philadelphia, why he lies to his congregation and says that there's no documentation of Isis being worshipped as a virgin, right? That's silly, okay? We proved it, that is incorrect. The dictionary, I mean, I use so many different sources to show you it was incorrect. I mean, you're gonna argue with the dictionary? Okay, that's real. That's a real vie for thought control, right? And I don't mind anybody arguing with the dictionary. I argue with the dictionary sometimes, but it has to be really for a plausible reason. It has to be for a very plausible reason. And then what you show in its stead needs to stand on its own merit and make sense. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making sense, right? And the Christian narrative does not make any sense. And they're fine with that. They're completely fine with that. But we don't have to be fine with it. Right? We like for things to make sense to us, and that's why we do this. So before we go any further, because it's very easy for me to forget. I think that we could take a moment for this. See you in a second. Oh, what's the new one here? Bang. See you in a second.
On my own, but I ain't never alone. I got these haters wanna bring me in and bring me to the day that I'm gone. I see so many great things, it's like a king on the stone. I'm looking back on my own. On my own, but I ain't never alone. I got these haters wanna bring me in and bring me to the day that I'm gone. I see so many great things, it's like a king on the stone. I'm looking back on my own. I see it all.
Looking back, I see you there. Seen so many great things. Hey, look at that. Surrounding myself with the best that this life had to offer on my own. Looking back.
On my own, but I ain't never alone. I got these haters wanna bring me in and bring me to the day that I'm gone. I see so many great things, it's like a king on the stone. I'm looking back on my own. On my own, but I ain't never alone. I got these haters wanna bring me in and bring me to the day that I'm gone. I see so many great things, it's like a king on the stone. I'm looking back on my own. I see it all.
Looking back, I see you there. Seen so many great things. Hey, look at that. Surrounding myself with the best that this life had to offer on my own. Looking back.
Hey, yours truly here. Okay, so with that said, let's get back to it. And throughout this this broadcast, this presentation, if anybody is inspired and motivated to make a payment, if you look, it's pinned to the top. My Cash App, $ Shakka-Ahmose, and all payments are accepted and welcome. You pay whatever you like. That's what it is. Okay. I don't ask for donations. I don't ask for contributions or support. I'm not with that. This is a service that I'm rendering, and fair exchange mandates that I be compensated. I just feel this is my way of being compensated. That is, pay whatever you want, whatever you like. Right? Who am I to tell you what to pay? So here we go. Okay. So I'm gonna try to keep an eye on my sometimes it can get a little crazy in the chat. We get a few interlopers that want to come in and cause chaos, who need to be excised from the presence. And okay, this is something I do have to do. gotta take a quick run through the chats just to see what's going on, because sometimes there's some pretty important things in the chat, and then we're gonna get started. Give me a second. Let me take a look. Okay. All right. Okay. You can get something to drink while we do this. Okay. Get something to drink. Go to the bathroom so you don't miss anything. All right. Call someone to come in. Right. Okay. Let me see if it's okay. I just snapped the picture. Right. So those things can be used for marketing, stuff like that, you know. Okay. No, Bob, I can't believe you would even make a comment like that. Darth Vader, really? Come on, bro. We don't disrespect the culture around here. We don't do that, right? We don't do that. What I have on my head is called a cot. For those of you who don't know what a cot is, look it up. K-H-A-T. K-H-A-T. It's called a cot. Okay? And I'm very comfortable with them. They seem to agree with me. And so it is what it is. I'm always perplexed when I hear or see people who are supposed to be upholding and advancing the culture when they speak derisively or make light of the aesthetics, you know? Okay. So let's see. Okay. All right. Happy Passover. That's an insult. I should block a line for saying that. Happy Passover. That's an insult to us. We don't celebrate our firstborn children being being killed or murdered. But since it's just a myth, I'm going to let that slide. Nah, maybe not. Unless it was meant in facetiously. Okay. Hey, I love finding people to get rid of. I love that. Bye, New Orleans. Oh, this dude from New Orleans. I know who that is. Let me unblock him. Hold on a second. Right. Let me unblock him. I hope he didn't get blocked. Yeah, this New Orleans Uptown 17. This dude is a Christian minister, but he always watches me. Why do you always watch me? If you think that I'm everything else but a child of God, because you tend to name call a lot in my chat. Why do you watch me? Why are you so perplexed? Why are you so interested in me and what I have to say? Go read your Bible. There's a billion Christian channels on YouTube. Go to your echo chamber and go finish listening to about your fake Jesus story and your fake Bible. What are you here listening to me for? I don't have anything for you other than truth, facts, and documentation. That's all I have for you. Truth, facts, and documentation. And a lot of common sense. Okay? None of which you have. So, you know, and you're always making sexual references about myself. Why would you think about me sexually in any way as a man? New Orleans Uptown 17th. I know why you would, because that's how you roll. You think about men sexually, and if that's who you are, that's who you are, right? But you know, yeah, you know, it's. I mean, you claim to be. Yeah, you're here to learn. That's why you're here. You don't know how to study on your own. You don't know how to research the historical record to educate yourself. So you came to the right place to get it. But if you're going to do that, dumping insults into the chat is not it's not a productive way of showing your appreciation. That's all I'm saying. Okay? There's a much more constructive way to show your appreciation. Visit my Cash App and say thank you, Shaka, for teaching me something that my pastor was too stupid and too historically illiterate to teach me. Okay? So that's just what it is. Okay? And the reality of it is that most people don't respect themselves enough to study at a certain level. And so when you encounter someone who respects your mind enough to teach you at a certain level, you should sit down and shut the fuck up and learn. That's what you should do. You know, I went and spent out, you know, the $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on books and literature, so you didn't have to. I'm the one that took the time to study it over 30 years and read it so that you wouldn't have to. The least you can do is give your undivided attention, make sure you have your thinking cap on, and learn. That's it. You don't have to agree with anything that is being shown to you. But see, my thing is this. No one has to agree with anything I say, but I support the right of the Black community to know what is in between the pages of many different texts and books that they will never be introduced to unless I introduce you to it. Right? This particular study that we've been looking at, ISIS in the Greco-Roman world, right? That's an indispensable study. It's not from the 19th century, right? It's set dead square smack in the middle of the 20th century, where enough scholarship was known to be able to speak definitively about it. And it's a study that was undertaken at Queen's Mary College, London, London University. So we're not getting it from a local community school in our neighborhood or for some 19th century Egyptomaniacs. This is coming from a real scholar, right? R.E. Witt was a real, genuine scholar. So if you are allergic to scholarship and you don't want to see scholarship, this is not the channel for you. This channel is for people who respect scholarship, who would like to be exposed to more scholarship and to a responsible explication of that scholarship. That's it. Okay? That's who it's for. And for all of the Christians who are watching on the down low, shout out to Alfredo Valentino, Adam Coleman, and Eric Mason, Vince Bantu, and Damon Richardson, and all the rest of you, Jerome Gay Jr. You know, the Jesus Peanut Gallery. Shout out to you guys because I know you're watching and I know you're listening. That's why you're making your response videos. Okay. You're sending your little minions to do it because Eric Mason is too scared, doesn't have the Jesus balls to see me. Neither does the rest of that cabal. But they want to make TikTok videos saying that we, the conscious community, got all of its beliefs from the 19th century. It's so, I mean, I'll chalk it to stupid people say stupid things, and I'll leave it at that. Stupid people say stupid things. Historically illiterate people prove that they are historically illiterate from the time they open their mouth. And that's it. Just leave it at that. So, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, folks, so here we go. Let's get to it. 1 second. Hold on. So what we're going to do is this. Hold on. I'm going to do my behind the scenes work here. No, stop sharing. It's not that I want to stop sharing. Do I have to stop sharing? Oh, okay, I guess I had to. Yeah. Okay, people. There we go. I wonder if I had to stop sharing for that. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. So here we go. 6, 0. And let's get to it. Come on, people. There we go. Great. All right. So let's go to the page above it. Here we go. All right, and we'll start from here. So we're going to share screen, and I have to remember that I'm doing this on very little sleep. I have to remind myself, right? So here we go. Okay. Definitions matter. What are we looking at? What definitions matter that we're talking about here? Okay. So let's go up. The very last thing we read when we pulled off the last time, when we came to the end of the last presentation, we were reading from Isis in the Ancient World by R.E. Witt, Queen's Mary College, London University, John Hopkins University Press. Yeah, so you guys might not like this, but this is a university press. This is not some local press. Okay? This is written by a legitimate university professor, published by a legitimate university press, which means we're dealing with scholarship. That's what they publish. They publish nonfiction, not fiction. Okay? Which means, unfortunately for you, what you're looking at are the facts of the historical record. Okay? For you Christians out there. So let's look at the last thing that he said about Isis. And he was quoting from he was speaking about of Isis and Osiris by Plutarch in the 1st century. So what he said was, lastly, when the coffer containing the corpse of Osiris is carried over the sea, Isis follows it to Biblos in Phoenicia. Biblos, where, now I highlighted this for a reason, where Egyptian antiquities have been unearthed, was a point of economic and religious contact between Phoenicia and the Nile country, between the Levant and Africa. Okay? The Nile country is a reference to Africa, particularly the Upper Nile. Okay? So, why is that important? Because I want to highlight something that I think is very important that gets overlooked. Okay? And this is something Christians really need to be mindful of. And this is coming from somebody who initially started out in the church. I initially started out, like many of you, in the church. And so I was under the impression, I had a lot of false impressions about the Bible, what it meant, where it came from, like everybody else did. And so it prevented me from connecting dots. Once I began to actually learn and study and research, the dots begin to connect themselves so that the answers to questions were readily available if you knew how to augment your lens so that you could really understand what's being said and what's being illustrated before you. Okay? So let's take a look at this. All right? So it talked about Isis following the coffin of Osiris to Biblos, where was unearthed Egyptian antiquities, and it spoke about Biblos having religious affiliate connection to the Nile country. Okay, this is important because the mantra that the Christians and the urban apologist community, the mantra that they constantly repeat is that Christianity had nothing to do with ancient Egyptian religion, and that Christianity basically had nothing to do with ancient Egyptian culture, and that there's no connection between ancient Egyptian religion and Christianity. This is their mantra. And so therefore, under that mantra, anything else that you point out that proves them wrong in their obverse, upside down world is wrong. Okay? In other words, you're seeing things that are not there. You're documenting and quoting things that are not documented in their weird reality. So you can't really try to have a rational conversation with them about it. All you have to do is basically show the facts, let people with normal working brains expose themselves to the facts, and then expose themselves to my explication of it, which is just a privilege that I'm taking for the platform's sake. You can explicate it for yourself however you see fit. But that's the privilege of being able to explain it on my own platform. Okay, so let's look at the significance of Biblos. Why does Biblos matter in this conversation? Let's take a look at it, right? Absolutely. Normal, operative word. It's true, you know? Funny thing about Christians that they always seem to forget that people who are in a cult are the last people to know that they're in a cult. Right? You people in the Yahweh cult who see Yahweh as God, you are cult members. You are the beneficiaries of a cult. That's what you are. You need to know that. If you believe the Bible is true and you subscribe to that worldview, you are a member of a cult. If you subscribe to Jesus as being your God and your Savior, you are a cult member. You are active in a cult. Okay? Or should I say you share in cult beliefs. Okay? You need to know that. I'm going to document that for you. Okay? So, because cult members are the last people to know that they're in a cult, you know, what are you going to do? You know, you just got to move forward. And hopefully those who have the propensity to wake up out of it will be set free of it. Okay? All right. If they want to be set free. If they don't and they're happy where they are, leave them where they are. Right? So let's take a look at why Biblos matters. What is the significance of Biblos? Well, increasing our vocabulary. Where does the word Bible come from? Right? This is important. Where and why is it important? Right? Because, matter of fact, I'll tell you why it's important as we move through it. Okay? I think it'll have a greater impact. So let's look at this word Biblos. Okay? Remember, ISIS followed, according to Plutarch, ISIS, in his version of the story, ISIS followed the coffin of Osiris to Biblos. And this is what the dictionary says about Biblos. It's a proper noun. It's an ancient Mediterranean seaport situated on the site of modern Jabal, to the north of Beirut in Lebanon. It became a thriving Phoenician city in the 2nd millennium BC. Okay? The Bronze Age, the 2nd millennium BC. All right? Yeah. The end of the Bronze Age, beginning of the Iron Age. Now, this is important. Why is this important? Because when you tell people, as I try to tell them, that the Bible was actually named after this place, Biblos, they look at you like you're crazy. They look at you like, no, that can't be right. It is right. The Bible is literally named after Biblos. Okay? And we're going to break down why it is. I'm going to repeat myself. Oh, I forgot to say this. For those of you who are interested in topics such as Christianity, ancient Egypt, and the relationship between the two, this is the platform that you want to come to, because that's pretty much all that I talk about. And that's pretty much going to be the thrust of the platform for the time being. because eventually, once we study it enough, it will lead to other plateaus that are really more important and have much more modern relevance. Okay. And a lot of people have been asking me to do topics on contemporary topics, current events. I'm going to talk about why I choose not to do that in another episode. Okay. And you'll understand why. So let's look at, so normally when you try to explain to them, and I try to explain to them, that the Bible was named after Biblos. But not only is it named after Biblos, why is that important? Because the reality of it is, as these Christians work harder to separate ancient Egypt from the Bible, see, they feel that ancient Egypt only plays two roles in the Bible. One, as the place where the Jews were enslaved, and then two, where Jesus went when he was a child. But they don't even make any significance of that. They don't understand the role that Egypt even really plays in those stories, and why Egypt is mentioned the way it's mentioned in those stories. However, we're looking at the relevance of the Bible being named after Biblos. This is important because the very name of the book, the Bible, connects it to Egypt. I'll say it again. The very name of the book, the Bible, connects it to Egypt. There's no way around that. To Kemet, to Tamere, to Tawi, all the different names of this land, to Sais, okay, to Egypt, to ancient Egypt. The name of the book itself, the Bible, and that's what we're going to look at. How is that name, the Bible, connect? The name itself, the Bible, right? Bible. How is that connected to Egypt? This is how we are going to look. Okay, we are going to look now and see. Let's explicate this. So this is Biblos, as you can see right here. Byblos. So they will tell you that the word Bible comes from ta Biblia, right? The books, right? Which itself comes from biblion, right? Book, right? Which is originally a diminutive of Biblos, meaning papyrus scroll of Semitic origin. This is important. Biblos, papyrus roll of Semitic origin. Okay? So the term itself, Biblos, referred initially only, one second, the term Biblos referred originally to a papyrus roll. Okay? Say it again. Papyrus roll. And it was of a Semitic origin. It was a Phoenician term, a Levantine term that was used to reference the papyrus scroll, right? Why is that important? It's important, as we're going to find out in a second. Let's take a look. Yeah, we're going to go, we're going to get into it. Hold on one second. Let me see what's coming up. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, I haven't looked at this PowerPoint in quite some time, so I just refreshed my memory by going a few slides ahead of what this is leading to. And you got to do that with me. And so, just now. And so, why is this important? It's because this term, Bible, initially comes from the word Biblos. It's telling you in the definition. Bible. As you work back, right? Let's read it. Middle English via Old French, from ecclesiastical Latin, Biblia, which comes from the Greek, ta Biblia, the books, which comes from biblion, book, which is Greek, which is originally a diminutive, which is originally, hold on one second. Hold on, here we go. You know my PowerPoint, it loves it. My PowerPoint has Nikes, likes to jump, right? So again, Bible is originally from Latin biblia, from the Greek ta biblia, the books, from biblion, book, originally a diminutive of biblos. So they will say, well, Shaka, that biblos has no Y in it. Biblos has a Y. If it was named after the country, it would have a Y. That's what they would tell you. I know because I've had this conversation with Christians. And then I have to break it down to them that the only reason that this biblos does not have a Y is because the Y was changed to I. The classical Latin alphabet, the changing of Y to I. This is from Wikipedia, which is sometimes worth reading. It's from an article on classical Latin alphabet, okay? The letter Y, when introduced, was probably called high as in Greek. The name Upsilon not being in use yet. But this was changed, the Y was changed to I Greca, Greek, as Latin speakers had difficulty distinguishing its foreign sound Y from I. So they changed it to I. It's called I Greca. This is how this I became I in Biblos. But originally it was a Y from here, Biblos. It is literally, this Biblos is literally what became the name of the country, Biblos. But when they talk about it as a country, they use the original Y. When they talk about the items, the papyrus scrolls, in that context of the noun that they're using, they use the I. They use the Latin I, which makes sense because the Latin concern with that country would have been the literature coming out of that country, which was on papyrus scrolls. Okay? Now, so I just want you to understand that when we tell you that the term Bible literally comes from Biblos, that's an actual fact. When you see that I in the Ta Biblia, and in all of the, because the only reason the I is in Biblia is because it came from the diminutive of Biblos. Talking about papyrus scrolls, in that country, in a country that the Egyptians called Kubla. Gubla, they called it Kubla. But the number one item in that country was the papyrus scroll, which was called Biblos. But what they don't tell you about that papyrus scroll, which you're going to see in a minute, is that they weren't, this is Biblos here. This is Africa. This is the Nile. This is Egypt. This is Biblos, today modern Beirut. Okay? What they don't tell you, geography and language matter. What they don't tell you about Biblos is that the Greeks who called that country Biblos, and they called it Biblos because this is where they were getting their books from. And because the book trade was the most important trade in that country, it was the name of those of that commodity, books. That's what the country was most renowned for. Why? Because that's where the rest of the known world was getting their books from. You have to remember, these are the same people who introduced the alphabet to the rest of the known world. So what you have to look at Biblos as a middleman in the book industry of that age. This is what they're not telling you. Okay? This is what they're not telling you. And the composition, if you will, of all of much of the literature coming out from Biblos eventually was compiled into one text, which is how you get the Bible. But you have to understand this book trade coming out of coming out of Biblos, going into the rest of the world. But where were the books coming from? And this is the important part. They were coming from Egypt. They were coming from Egypt. So you wonder why the Greeks and all these other people have all of these different Egyptian elements in their mythology and in their story, and Plato and all the rest of them. It's because they were getting their stories from Egypt by virtue of Biblos. The Phoenicians, everybody knows that the Phoenicians were the middlemen for Egypt and the rest of the Mediterranean and the Aegean. This is not rocket science, people, unless you are terminally stupid. If you're terminally ignorant, or as if you've never been exposed to this before, I would understand why you don't understand this. But most people don't even know geography. If you're coming up in school in the American school system, you couldn't find Biblos on a map if somebody gave you $100 on your first try. If somebody walked in a school and said, here's $100, go find Biblos within 5 seconds on the map, they couldn't point it out. So you're geographically challenged, but then you think you're going to know something about this subject matter? No. So the very name Bible is in reference to the books that were coming out, biblion, books that were coming out of the Nile Valley. See, they tell you it was papyrus scrolls. They don't tell you what was on the papyrus scrolls. That's how they play you. They want you to think that the Greeks were just coming and they were obsessed with empty papyrus scrolls so that they could take them back to Greece and then write their stories. No, you idiot, you fools. They were taking books that were being written and published in Egypt, and it was the Phoenicians who basically were distributing it. They were distributing the book. It was a book trade. It was a book industry that these retarded Christians know nothing about, and they want to pretend. That's why this is why I went. If you go back to Kemetic TV, my old platform, my experimental platform, I went to Miami. I was out on Miami with a microphone and a camera crew, and I was asking random black strangers, mostly black people, a question because I wanted to prove a point on camera. I should have bought it for this broadcast. We'll look at it later. And I asked all the people, what is the oldest book in the world? What is the old? Everybody that walked by, and 99.9% of them all said the Bible. That shows you what Christianity has done to the collective memory of the world. People honestly think that the Bible is the oldest book in the world, and it's not even close to being the oldest book in the world. Not even this much close. The Bible is a very late book. It's extremely late. There are thousands, if not millions, of other books before the Bible that were more important, just as important, and similar to the Bible's creation. But they keep you ignorant of that fact. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket science. How can the Bible be the oldest book in the world if you have Homer's Iliad and Odyssey? What is that? 6th century BCE? There's no Bible 7th, 6th century BCE. The Bible is not until the 3rd century BCE. The Septuagint and the Pentateuch, the Torah, the Law, the Chumash, right? Later on called the Tanakh. That stuff is not 6th century BCE, 7th century BCE. The Bible is, so if you had Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey is the first book coming out of Greece. That's 600 years before, roughly 600-700 years before Bible. And we're not going to mention all of the books coming out of Egypt for millennia. Multiple millennia. Thousands of years. When nobody else was publishing books. Maybe a few other places in Mesopotamia. They had their epics, Epic of Gilgamesh and so on. But nobody was as prolific or predated the Egyptians. These are facts. You wonder why your Bible is called Bible? It is a direct reference to literally, it is literally a direct reference to the books that were coming out of Egypt. Biblia. Where do you think the books were coming from? From Egypt. This is why so many of the stories end up in the Levantine literature, where the Jews are supposed to be, where the Hebrews are supposed to be, right? They're over there too, in the Levant. So all you got is books coming out of Egypt flooding this entire area. And you wonder why all these Egyptian stories are in the Bible? And you claim that Christianity and Judaism has no relationship to the religion of ancient Egypt? You have to be, I always say, you got to be a special kind of stupid. I wouldn't even call you special education. Shout out to my special education people. You're not smart enough to be in special education. That's the way I feel about these Christians and their claims. They're not smart enough to even be in special education. They're too historically illiterate. The books that were coming through the book trade in what later on became known as Biblos, because of the book trade, they were coming out of Egypt. Let's prove it. Let's look at it. Okay? So let's look at this for a quick second. So it goes pretty much in this order. Biblos, ancient Mediterranean seaport, the Levant. Byblos. Then at that same period, or even prior to it, the Latin I is superimposed on the word because that was the concern of the church later on, the books. And so that Latin I is what's superimposed on Biblos when they're referring to the papyrus and the scroll. But because it's the Latin people who have control of the term, if you will, remember, the Christians subsumed all knowledge, as I documented for you in the previous episode, in the previous broadcast. So the Latin early church is going to superimpose this term on it, but it's originally a Y, Biblos, referring to this country. Okay, the recipient of the books coming out of Africa, out of the Nile Valley, right? Later on, that term, Biblos, or earlier actually, it might even be later on. It really doesn't matter. The term Biblion, well, Biblos is actually a diminutive of Biblion, book, or which book itself is a diminutive of Biblos. Okay, so this word Biblion is a diminutive of this word Biblos. Biblos is a Latin version of this word Biblos, but it all goes back to Biblos, what the Egyptians called Kubla. Okay, and then this word Biblion, which comes from these words Biblos with a Y and Biblos with an I, and then you get Biblion, which is a diminutive of Biblos. So this word literally comes from this word, right? And then from there, you see it's Greek. From there, they refer to it as ta Biblia, the books, Greek, ta Biblia, Greek, okay? So from Biblos to ta Biblia, Greek, right? And then from ta Biblia to just Biblia, they dropped the ta, ecclesiastical Latin, Biblia. And in the Old French, that became Bible. And in Middle English, Bible, which all goes back to Biblos. This is what your name of your book is. It's referring to the books coming out of Egypt. How stupid can you be to think that the very title of your book, which refers to books coming out of Egypt, and you are stupid enough to think that the religion of ancient Egypt and the stories of ancient Egypt were not infused into that culture of books that were being disseminated throughout the rest of the Mediterranean? They told you in Biblos, in that earlier definition. What did it say about Biblos? Let's see. Right? This is the reason Plutarch included Biblos in his story of Isis and Osiris. What did it say? Let's look at it. Let's read it again. It says right here, lastly, when the coffin of Osiris containing the corpse is carried over the sea, Isis follows it to Biblos in Phoenicia. Biblos, where Egyptian antiquities have been unearthed, was a point of economic and religious contact between Phoenicia and the Nile country. So if the Greeks are coming there to learn and to get literature to learn about the ancient world of which they were not really a part, it's only natural that that part of the world, the Hellenistic world, would be subject to what's called religious contamination. It's not rocket science. This stuff is not hard, unless you're stupid. All right? Unless you choose to, and I don't mean stupid innately, but some people choose to be stupid. So, I mean, what are you going to do? You know? But I just showed you the origin of the word. This is where it comes from. This is its lineage. Now, these are the books like this. The story of, I forgot his name. We'll look at it in a second. I'm tired. I told you I'm really exhausted. 2 hours sleep. Sinuhe, the story of Sinuhe, right? The story of Sinuhe was one of those books. And this is why the Bible writers use this story as a motive and a model to probably write the story of Moses, as we are going to look. We're doing scholarship, right? Here we go. Hold on. Let's take a look. Okay? Hold on. So we're going to look at this book, An Introduction to the Bible, by Robert Kugler and Patrick Harton. All right? Dr. Robert Kugler, PhD. Dr. Patrick Harton, PhD. Now, we're going to look at their credentials to see who these people are. Why? Because this man's credentials is through the roof. The whole point of this exercise is to do something that pastors will not ever do, because they're about control of knowledge. Always remember that. It's about mind fuckery with them, mind control. Always remember that. Don't ever forget that. So therefore, they're not going to tell you what the experts actually say. I'm coming to you to show you what the experts actually say. And I just think that as a responsible community, this is what, come on, people, you got to go to the Cash App, not the Super Chats. I'm not going to see that money. Anyway, and it's pinned to the top of the YouTube chat. So I get so perturbed when people make Super Chat contributions. Go to the Cash App. That's where it counts. Cash App counts, not Super Chat. But I thank you anyway, Dwayne. Miss you. Good brother. Give me a call, by the way. So this the whole point is to let you know what the experts actually say. So this way, if you're going to be quoting somebody, I just think it makes more sense to quote the experts than it does to quote wannabe experts. You understand what I'm saying? Right? And you're not quoting me, right? I'm introducing you to the experts, to the PhD experts, to see what they say. Now, we're going to see if the experts say that the stories, some of the stories or elements of the stories from the ancient Egyptian stories ended up in the Bible. We're going to see what the PhDs say, because they want this Eric Mason character. He wants you to believe that all of this is coming from some 19th century Egyptomaniacs. That's his mantra, and he's not going to change it, no matter how much evidence you put in front of him. You can show him all the evidence in the world, like Contra-Celsus, right? He continually repeats that lie. One thing about a Christian that you must always remember, they are firmly under the impression, and it's part of their religious practice, if you repeat a lie long enough, it will be taken as the truth. That they die on that sword. That is the course they die on. Okay? That is the course in the hill they die on. If you repeat a lie long enough, it will become the truth. And that's what they do. So he will sit in his echo chamber on TikTok and on his Facebook page and constantly repeat this nonsense that the connection between ancient Egyptian religion and Christianity, that started in the 19th century. That supposedly started in the 19th century with a bunch of Egyptomaniacs, European Egyptomaniacs. And any person that repeats that is just as historically illiterate and miseducated and undereducated about these subject matters as is the pastors that repeat it. Now, the reason they repeat it so much is that they need for that lie to be true. Because if it's not true, then they have a problem. And here's my thing. If we document for them connections being made between Jesus and Egypt, if we document it for them in the 3rd and 2nd century CE, and we document it for them in the 21st century, that the connections were made that far back and up to cutting edge scholarship today, you sound like I said, you sound like someone not even qualified for special education because you're stuck in that area. That's your mantra. As long as I repeat that, people will think, oh, I can show them Blavatsky, which we never promulgated. Nobody from Dr. Clark's community recommended that anybody read Helena Blavatsky. So why you repeat that? He tried to make that association. He'll mention Dr. Clark in the video, and then a few minutes later, after talking about Massey, he'll throw in Helen Blavatsky to make it seem like we uphold her worldview or school of thought. These people are insidious. They are literally, to me, they are Satan. To me, Christian apologists are literally the children of Satan. Literally. I see Christians as the children of Satan, believe it or not. I mean, if you subscribe to the whole Satan thing, that's how I see them. Because they say that that Satan is the father of lies. So why do you have to lie? Why you got to cheat me to beat me? Beat me with actual facts. Stop invoking Gerald Massey and so what? We read Massey. That doesn't mean we believe everything Massey said. It doesn't mean that we can't see past Massey's mistakes, past his errors. He was just a pit stop on the way to learning. And then once you get past Massey, you don't stay in kindergarten forever. You realize where he went wrong. You get rid of it. You keep a few things he got right, because he got some things right. And you just keep it moving. They're fixated on Massey because they believe that as long as they can show you this faux literature, as long as they can show you this pseudo 19th century stuff, they feel they have a leg to stand on. That's why they won't address the cutting edge scholarship, and they won't address the ancient highlighting of the relationship between Jesus, Mary, and ancient Egypt, and the religion or the culture and worldview of ancient Egypt. They won't touch those. They're scared to touch that. Okay? So let's look at it. So let's look at this. They're gonna, what they love to do, this shows you their psychology. Their psychology is every single thing that Shaka says is wrong. That means every PhD I showed you is wrong. Every bit of primary evidence that I share with you is wrong. That is the person with psychological challenges. And so if you stand on that mountain and try to go toe-to-toe with them, with their refutations and their characterizations and you will never get anywhere. So the best thing to do is, because you got to remember, you're talking to someone who, it's not that they can't understand. They refuse to understand. There's a difference. What did Vince Bantu say? No matter what fact you show me, Jesus Christ will always be my Lord and Savior. This is a PhD, a supposed to be PhD that said this. No matter what fact, which means if you're having a conversation with somebody who puts ideology before facts, don't have that conversation. Not unless you are just as insane as they are. Right? You go where the facts lead. That's courage. That's integrity. That's scholarship. You go where the facts and the documentation and the primary evidence take you. Okay? Not faith. Okay? That's an abuse and misuse of faith, which is what they do. Okay? They misuse and abuse it. Faith has its place and it plays a role. It is a powerful thing. But if it's co-opted, appropriated, and turned inward in an unhealthy way, in a misleading way, God help the people that you try to extricate out of it, because that's how people end up in cults. If you don't believe me, go in these churches. That's all they are. They're cults. They are remnants of cults. That's what they are. Seventh-day Adventist is a cult. Jehovah's Witness is a cult. Southern Baptist is a cult. Pentecostal is a cult. These are all cults. And if you belong to any of them, evangelical, this, that, and the third, Latter-day Saints, all of them, Mormons, all of them, without fail, they are all cults. All of them. Why? How do we know? You must be in line with their thinking. They even have cult language that says that it's about thought control. What do you think their polemics are all about? They're 21 years trying to figure out what was the relationship between Jesus and God. And if you thought, they based their whole identity on that. If that is not cult, it doesn't get more cult than that. They're no different from Jim Jones or any of the other Christian cults. That guy Rock up in Canada. They're no different. They are all cults. Okay? So let's see. Now, I go through the painstaking exercise of reading the credentials before I show you what the person says. Why? So you can appreciate the gravity of the authority of the person saying it. My thing is, if you want to understand something insightfully, you don't have a discussion with somebody on the street corner who doesn't know, who's never really studied, who has no deep insight, who hasn't committed and devoted themselves to study of the subject matter. You go to someone who is extremely well versed in the subject matter, who has deep insight into it, and you hear what they have to say. And from there you go. So let's see what they have to say about Egyptian stories ending up in the Bible. Okay? And these are from very conservative scholars. So let's take a look at it. And they have a very short sentence to say. So their credentials are much longer than the sentence. But I figured that what they say is so important that the mere fact that they say it, you have to take what I'm telling you into consideration. All right? And this is a light statement that they make. But the gravity of the credentials behind them saying it, people with these kind of credentials don't make a career out of being wrong. Okay? So I'm not in the business of convincing. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to expose you to the information and to the data and to the record, the historical record. And then from there, you can edify your own decision about these things. Okay? So let's take a look. Let's go through the credentials and let's get through this. So first up is one of the authors of an introduction to the Bible is named Robert Kugler and Patrick Harton. We're going to look at Dr. Robert Kugler, PhD. He's the Paul S. Wright Professor of Christian Studies, Department Chair of Religious Studies and Classical Studies. He teaches courses on Jewish and Christian origins, including courses on both the Hebrew Bible and New Testament. If you ask me, he already knows a hell of a lot more about this than Pastor Eric Mason. His special area of research deals with the interface between the social historical context of early Judaism and Christianity and the religious interpretation of their received texts and traditions. Now that's interesting that he put that. That's why I highlighted that, because he's an expert in the religious interpretation of their received texts and traditions. What does that mean? Let's automatically just deal with things. Don't gloss over things. What that means, because we're going to look at this later in other studies. What they've done is they've taken their text, and when you hear pastors and religious people, the religious people talk to you about these books in religious terms, what he said should make your antenna go up. He's an expert in their religious interpretation of these writings, which means what? These writings do not have to be interpreted religiously. You understand? See, your pastor doesn't tell you that. That this genre of literature, biblical literature, it's not required that you interpret it or read it religiously. That is a choice. If you choose to interpret it as such, you are making a choice. You are never even taught that you have a choice to process this literature in multiple ways. from multiple perspectives. You understand? And when you do, you come up with different answers qualitatively. Some, depending on which approach you take, the answers will make sense or the endeavor will make no sense. Okay? Which then will require the supernatural and things that don't have to be explained because they can't be explained. Right? And so, inexplicability is where God derives his power from, according to these people, in their worldview. Okay? So it can't be explained, therefore it's God. Okay? So therefore, God is an ever-receding concept because the more time, as the time goes on, the more knowledge accumulates. All right? So in their worldview, that's why it's very dangerous to define God that way. Okay? Because you make God disappear over time. All right? So let's get back to the credentials and see who we're talking about, who's talking to us, right? So he is particularly engaged with interpretive traditions in the Dead Sea Scrolls and in Jewish and Christian literature from Greco-Roman Egypt, as well as with the documentary evidence for Judean life in Hellenistic Egypt. Okay? Now that's important. Jewish and Christian literature from Greco-Roman Egypt. This is important, right? Because you got to remember, when you're dealing with the Bible, right, you're dealing with Jewish and Christian literature from Greco-Roman Egypt. That's number one, right? That's what the Bible is. Jewish and Christian literature from Greco-Roman Egypt, as well as with the documentary evidence for Judean life in Hellenistic Egypt. Because you see, let me explain something to you before we go any further. One of the things, this is why these pastors would be embarrassed in front of me and would get embarrassed quickly. I know what questions to ask them that's going to trip them up because their answers are not going to be satisfactory and they're going to be proven wrong in a blink of an eye. One of the things that they never talk about, right, is they talk about Jesus being a Jew. Well, they never considered the fact that if Jesus was a Jew in first century Palestine, that means that he was a Hellenistic Jew. Because Hellenism was replete throughout first century Palestine. And in fact, the brand of Judaism that was that existed in first century Palestine, since you're claiming first century Palestine for Jesus, that's Hellenistic Judaism. So if Jesus was a Hellenistic Jew, according to your narrative, that means he would agree with us. He had no choice. He would agree with us that the religion he was espousing came out of Egypt. He would have had to agree with us. He was a Hellenistic Jew. Or at the very least, that the religion he was espousing was inherited from the Greek pagans of Egypt, who themselves were attempting to revive the original Egyptian religion. So either way, no matter how you slice it, it's always going to come back to Egypt when you're talking about Christianity. Because if you're talking about Jesus, you're talking about Hellenistic Judaism in first century Palestine. You can't change that unless you are historically illiterate and have not read the proper material, which I will introduce you to. Right? They have a lot of fantasies about first century Jews, and that's why they believe Jesus was XYZ. Yeah. Or they believe he was ABC when he was actually XYZ. Okay? They don't understand the narrative that they're preaching and talking because they're too historically truncated and they have a misskewed interpretation of what's being said. And they don't understand the polemics involved in either the Old Testament or the New Testament. They're just really a big ball of stupid. They really are. And I am not shy about saying that. Christians, especially the apologetics community and the pastors, they are the dumbest amongst all of the Christians. Why? Because Christians who are sincere and genuine, quite often you will find many of them are open-minded and just want to learn and know more. And with learning comes change of perspective. if learning does not change your perspective, if you learn only to reinforce what you think you already know, you're not interested in learning. You're interested in bias confirmation. You're not interested in learning. Okay? Learning automatically embedded in the word is change. Change. You're going from one state to another state. You're going from not knowing to knowing. And most often it's progressive. So if you're still the same and your thoughts are still the same at point B as they were at point A, then you haven't learned, you dumbass. That learning, it's embedded in the word itself. Change. It's implicit in the word. So there are many Christians who have no problems with learning. All Christians are not closed-minded. All Hebrew Israelites are not closed-minded. I know. I get the mail from them. Shakka, I'm no longer a Hebrew Israelite. I've learned. I've grown. I educated myself. Shakka, I'm no longer a Christian. I've learned. I've grown. I've educated myself. All Christians are not closed-minded. And the ones that choose learning and education don't remain Christians for long. It's impossible. Or some will rationalize their Christianity and just say, well, I don't believe as these idiots do, but, I still accept Christianity for these reasons. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, Sometimes you will find people who are non-Christian are more Christian than the Christians. That's not, that's not uncommon, okay? So, yeah, but these pastors are idiots. And one of the biggest ones is Eric Mason. This guy I listened to him talk. Yeah, they better be careful with calling Christianity the white man's religion. The religion of the conscious community comes from white people in the 19th century. No, it does not, you moron. It comes from primary texts that are 5,000 years old. The pyramid text does not come from 19th century white men. The Petit Imheru, the coffin text, right? The Book of Gates, the Tahotep, the instructions, the maxim of Amenemot. These do not come from 19th century white Egyptomaniacs. You utter moron. You are under the impression that everybody in the so-called conscious community or in the African-centered community is watching freaking Zeitgeist or is getting the information from Zeitgeist. And they're not. They're not. And everyone who was listening to Dr. Clark and Dr. Ben did not read Massey, Kuhn, Churchwood, and definitely not Blavatsky. That literature is obsolete amongst us. We don't require that literature to have our premises. We have primary evidence. We are historically literate. You're speaking a different language, bro. We're over here talking English. You're over there talking stupid. I can't even say Chinese or something. You're talking stupid. Because as usual, Eric Mason, you live in a fantasy world where you need for us to be reliant on obsolete literature and on a movement that itself was rendered obsolete. You need for us to be as historically illiterate as you are. We're not. We have people who are proficient in the language. Eden Kemetic, the language of ancient Egypt. We don't have to rely on 19th century scholars. We have scholarship that is cutting edge scholarship that is published now, right now, in modern times, not 19th century, not even the early of 20th century, late 20th century, early 2000s, that have been published by responsible scholars, University of Chicago, Brown University, Harvard, Yale, all saying the same thing, that Egyptian religion survived in Christianity. So did Neoplatonism. Christianity is a product of Hellenism. If you don't know what Hellenism is, then you're not going to know what to look for. You're going to live in an imaginary world where this fairy tale is true as it's written in the narrative, and that's how it unfolded. You're a fool. I can't even call you an educated fool, because Eric Mason is not educated. You just listen to him talk. I know when an educated person is speaking. their elocution is almost flawless. Their command of the language is uncompromised. They don't speak like laypersons. If you listen to Eric Mason speak, he seems as if he would have an issue with 5-syllable words, 4-syllable words. He wouldn't be able to pronounce them. So I don't think he can think as long as 3 blocks, let alone 5,000 years of literature. I really don't. I mean, the man is, like I said, he's not, in this subject matter, he's not qualified for special education, So none of them are. Vince Bantu, Damon Richardson, definitely what I call the little dummy crew, the LDC, the little dummy crew, Alfredo Valentin, Adam Coleman, the juniors, the vocab Malones, these guys. I mean, I'm watching and seeing, I'm recently been introduced to this Christian urban apologetics community. And I mean, truthfully speaking, for a polemicist, they're a polemicist's wet dream. It's like, okay, guys, let's go. Let's have some fun, it is what it is. So, let's see. Hold on. Let me just see if the chat room needs some cleaning up. I don't want people to be too distracted. No, we got some good people in here tonight. That's great. Wonderful. We have well over 100 people watching right now. So that's good. I never understand why people choose to contact me when I'm online. They've got all day. So, okay. People in their timing. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna stop. Start again. Just to make sure my camera's fine. Okay. So here we go. So yes. As a matter of fact, that's fine. What is it? Now they're watching, telling me no sound. I know there's no sound. There would have been sound if you wouldn't have called me. Okay. Now, so don't worry. So let's get back to these credentials and see who's talking to us. Because they didn't want you to think that this is the perspective of stupid people, of uneducated people. And we're like, no, that's not the truth. You can lie to your congregation. You can't lie to us. Okay, so let's go. And you know how cult members like to do. They stay on that mind, boy. They stay on the beliefs. They're like, you got to believe this. You got to believe that. You got to believe. That's cult. That's cult 101. That is cult 101. And that is why it is important for them to Bible explain and Jesus explain away everything. Okay? Yeah, the most important thing to remember about these Christians, especially the apologists and the pastors, is being that they have no control over the data and the information. What they try to do is they try to control the frame of the picture. See, if you have a picture inside of a frame, it doesn't matter what you do with the picture. As long as you turn the frame, the picture is going to go wherever the frame goes. So never ever allow them to frame a conversation. Don't ever allow them to frame a terminology. Don't allow them to frame anything, not even a picture of Jesus, okay? Don't ever allow them to frame anything. Because once you allow these people to frame anything, you have abdicated your right to think for yourself. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. You restoring your sovereign right given to you by God to think for yourself, not to think as they require you to believe. Because they are totally reliant on a text that they don't understand. They've convinced themselves that they understand it. Which is very dangerous. It's very dangerous. It's like reading a driver's manual. You've convinced yourself you understand it, right? And you get behind the wheel and you drive only to determine later, after a deadly accident, that you didn't understand it. It wasn't what you thought it was. And that's what this Christianity Bible situation is like. It's people who number one, they have a God complex, and they feel they derive their authority from God through this text, not understanding the real historical nature of the text themselves. Once you understand the actual historical nature of the text themselves, you know this has nothing to do with the Word of God. It's nothing divine about it. Anything can be sacred depending on what a culture holds sacred. So if cultures who didn't have any literature prior to a certain point received some literature at a certain point, and to that small group, it was sacred literature, that's fine. But to try to make that sacred literature sacred for the whole world is retarded. And to try to supplant the original literature from which that literature took, that's criminal. That's culturally criminal. And that's what Christians and Jews are guilty of, and Hebrews, or whatever you want to call them, and Muslims too. All of these, they're all guilty of that. You all stole your literature from older cultures, and then you turned around and vilified and demeaned those cultures inside your own literature. It's built into the dogma. Again, you don't understand the polemic nature of the literature you're reading. Right? When they were writing the Bible, they were responding to older books written about the people who were writing the Bible. And the people who wrote the Bible did so as a reaction. The Bible is reactionary literature. But Pastor Eric Mason don't know that. It is reactionary literature. They were reacting to what? To literature that was written before the Bible about those same topics and about the same people. And in fact, the people who were demonized and spoken of derisively in the earlier literature sat down to write the Bible in order to basically buttress their reputation in that period. It was a PR book. It was a PR book designed to get them a constitution and good standing in the world. That's it. But sorry, buddy, we got the chain of transmission. We know where they got all the literature from. We know what literature they modeled on. All of it. It's game over. It's been game over. Alfredo Valentin, this is just the beginning. These broadcasts that I've been doing of late, this is just the beginning. So I'm glad that you ran around and found your little Plutarch quote, which didn't mean anything. You quoted the idiot from that other channel who said Isis was not a virgin, and she was just a maiden. Did you ask him if he was a Christian? The person who said that, who was on the other platform, was he a Christian? Was he Jewish? Was he someone who had a vested interest in saying that Isis was not a virgin? He didn't show any documentation I showed documentation that said she was. He didn't show anything. And then some idiot is going to come on my channel and say, oh, no, Shaka, you're wrong. You need to go to the other channel because the white man over there said that she wasn't a virgin. What documentation did he show? Because he's white and he said it, that made it so? Damn. Talk about white privilege. That's deep. No, them days is gone. You got to come with primary evidence and you have to come with documentation. That fool came with none. He sat there on somebody's platform and said, oh, Isis wasn't a virgin. She was just a maiden. Well, dumbass, if you look at the word used for Mary in the Bible, in the original Greek, it means maiden. So how come it's maiden for Isis, but virgin for Mary? You're stupid. You're a special kind. That's what I mean about, I don't have, if I responded to every stupid thing that wannabe scholars say, one of the things I've had to learn over the years too, one of the things that you guys don't know is in the scholarly community, in the wannabe scholarly community, I have a lot of haters. You need to know that. You need to know that. There are a lot of people who've been jealous of the attention that I've gotten over the years, and it's true. They've been envious of it. And I understand that. I can appreciate that. And a lot of them don't care for, I guess, the esteem that many hold me in. And they want that for themselves. So they figure, Shaka's the man to beat. Well, good luck. Good luck with that. Because when you see what I have coming, you're going to know. You are totally going to know. Leave that man alone because publicly you will get embarrassed. And when it gets to a point where I need to embarrass you publicly, no problem. You signed up for it. But don't say that you didn't sign up for it. Because you're doing this now while I'm focused over here. But do remember, I might get some time on my hands. Go back, find your video, and make an example of you. Because I'm definitely going to do that with the little with LDC, the little dummy crew over from the apologetics community. Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Big envy. A lot of envy. And I'm the kind of person where I don't like to acknowledge such things because I don't like to think small of other people, that other people would be so small to envy you or to be jealous. But that's a reality of life that you have to accept. And many people have met their demise by trying to ignore that. No, acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. There are people who are jealous of you and people who are envy of you because they don't like the respect that you get. They don't like the esteem that other people hold you high in. They're just haters. They're haters. And they exist. I tell them, go to the gym and work out. Don't be mad. Go to the gym, work out, run, get a better diet. Your brain will think better and your scholarship will be better because you have much more blood pulsing through your brain. Okay? All right, but don't sit there and be mad just because your scholarship is scholar shit. And to me, having a bunch of white guests on your platform, to me, I'm not really impressed with that. When you have the right guest on your platform, I don't care what color they are, black, white, blue, green, I'll rock with you. But just because they're white doesn't make you an authority, okay? Not at all. Not at all, all right? The fact that you do your due diligence and that your scholarship stands up under scrutiny, that's what impressed me, okay? That's what I respect, okay? And so speaking of that, let's get back to these credentials, okay? Because we're going to look at stories from ancient Egypt finding their way into the biblical world by virtue of Biblos. Because let's retract. Remember, the book trade coming out of Biblos was getting its books from here, from the Nile Valley, from these temples, from the Pearl Islands, and from the bookstores. See, I don't know about the bookstores they had in Egypt, because the pastors ain't going to tell you about that. Why? Because the pastors are stupid and don't know. Egypt was the land of bookstores. The same way you got Barnes and Nobles, the same way you have Borders books, or at least used to have, right? That's what Egypt was for the rest of the world. That's what Egypt was for the rest of the world. But what you have to understand is that books then, at this time, paper was more valuable than gold. You have to understand this. Paper was more valuable than gold. Even up to medieval times, paper was more valuable than gold. Therefore, books had a level of prestige that we can't really understand today. So when we go to Amazon today and we see a book cost $1,000 or $2,000, we're like, what? You know how much money people paid for certain books back then? Yeah. And then there were books that were not expensive. Some books were commonplace. Some literature was very common. But you have to understand that in Egypt, papyrus, because it was ubiquitous and it was everywhere, and it was local, it was a local commodity, it would not have been that expensive. So everyone had access to it. Whoever was literate and could read and write and who was a scribe could write a book if you wanted to. But when you left Africa and when you left the Nile Valley, where papyrus was not plentiful and easily accessible, the price was, they were objects of prestige, meaning that they had greater importance outside of Africa than they did inside of Africa. So when those books left Africa and went to places like Biblos, it ended up in Greece and ended up in other Anatolia and other places, the stories in the books were larger than life, just by virtue of the fact that they were coming out of these books from this faraway exotic land that was much older than any of the places receiving the stories. So they didn't know what makes you think these people knew the difference between fiction and nonfiction? You stupid motherfuckers. Y'all just have no idea about the ancient world and how this stuff works. I hate to tell you this, but this is really the truth of the matter. This is really the truth of the matter. Okay, so let's look at it. Sometimes I'm just really astounded at the level of ineducation that people really have and suffer about these subject matters. Okay? So, let's read this man's credentials. We're going to run right through it. Dr. Robert Kugler, PhD, the Paul S. Wright Professor of Christian Studies, Department Chair of Religious Studies and Classical Studies, teaches courses on Jewish and Christian origins, including courses on both the Hebrew Bible and New Testament. His special area of research deals with the interface between the social historical context of early Judaism and Christianity. That's very important. And the religions, and why? Because you're talking about an interface between the social historical context of two Hellenistic communities, Hellenistic Judaism and Hellenistic Christianity. And the religion's interpretation and the religious interpretation, or the religion's interpretation. Oh, okay. I misread that earlier. I said religious, and the religion's interpretation of their received texts and traditions. Okay. So what I said earlier still stands. It's just that that's not what he said. Because you're going to find out in another text that I read later on that my earlier interpretation of this sentence was correct. That the literature known as the Bible does not necessarily have to have a religious interpretation. But that's not what he's saying here. Here he's saying the religion's interpretation of their received text and traditions. I'm not wearing my glasses, and I have blinded light. All right. He's particularly engaged with interpretive traditions in the Dead Sea Scroll and in Jewish Christian literature from Greco-Roman Egypt, as well as with the documentary evidence for Judean life in Hellenistic Egypt. 1994, PhD, University of Notre Dame. 1984, Masters of Divinity with honors, Pacific Lutheran Theological Seminary. He's a religious expert. 1979, BA with honors. 1979, Lewis and Clark College. Field of Study and Language Competencies. Hebrew Bible, Pseudepigrapha, Dead Sea Scrolls, Early Judaism, New Testament, Jewish Literature, and History in Greco-Roman Egypt, Ancient Languages. This man, and he has a lesser competency in modern Hebrew. Okay? So, what is he saying in, well, we're going to come back and look at it. And look at his co-author, Dr. Patrick Harton. Is he somebody who's not a religious expert? Well, let's see. He is Dr. Patrick Harton, professor of religious studies, Gonzaga University, Spokane, Washington. Studied theology at the Gregorian University in Rome, chair of the Classical Civilizations Department from 2002 to 2007. Chair of the Classical Civilizations Department. Eric Mason, are you a professor in Classical Civilizations Department? Do you have a degree in Classical Civilizations? Do you know Classical Civilizations like that? I don't think you do, and I'm pretty sure you don't. Teaching New Testament studies in the Religious Studies Department at Gonzaga University since 1995. Okay? He got his PhD in New Testament in 1988. This man has a PhD in New Testament, not a Master of Divinity or a Doctor of Theology or some, but not with that fake thing they got, that fake degree, Doctor of Divinity. That's what they got, that Doctor of Divinity degree that Eric Mason and them have, fake ass degrees, right? He's got a PhD in New Testament, all right, and he's got 2 PhDs, by the way, one in New Testament and one in theology, both from the University of South Africa, Pretoria, in ethics. Okay, now his area of specialization is in the letter of James, as well as the traditions behind the Gospels, particularly the sayings Gospel Q. He taught New Testament at the University of Witwatersrand, Johannesburg, and the University of South Africa, Pretoria. Okay, now, so these are both of the authors of this book, Introduction to the Bible. Okay, I just read you their credentials. We don't have to argue about that. We think they're both qualified to say whatever they're going to say. And we, as the listening audience, should listen to these 2 esteemed men because they've got the credentials to back it up. So let's see what they had to say about Egyptian stories ending up in the Bible. Because they say the story of Moses' flight to Midian following the murder of the Egyptian overseer may draw on the Egyptian tale of Sinuhe. Now, with these 2 men, with all of these PhD degrees in New Testament studies, if they have just an inkling and a hint that the Bible writers were drawing their stories from the older stories, these are the books right here. The books look like this. They were written in papyrus scroll form, and they were being diffused and disseminated or distributed through Biblos into the rest of the world. This is where people were getting their stories from and their ideas from. Ancient Egypt, Kemet, Africa, papyrus, scrolls, stories, books, Bible. That's how many of these stories, they're telling you. The story of Moses' flight to Midian following the murder of the Egyptian overseer may draw on the Egyptian tale of Sinuhe. This is the actual papyrus of Sinuhe about it's an African story, and it's in the British Museum. There's the link. This is not some 19th century relic, you retard. You making Philadelphia look stupid. Look, let me just tell you for the record. All black people from Philadelphia are not stupid, okay? They're not historic, not all of them. This one is. He is stuck on this 19th century stupidity stuff. But trust me, remember I told you part of their 11th commandment, thou shalt repeat a lie enough until it becomes the truth for everybody else. Okay? They're telling you in their own words, the story of Moses' flight to Midian following the murder of the Egyptian overseer may draw on the Egyptian tale of Sinuhe. Now, the fact that they say may is not important. The fact that they are aware of a tradition of Bible writers drawing on ancient Egyptian writing for their stories is evident in their book. They make that evident. Okay? So stop making it seem like the conscious community is making this up. Because after a while, he starts to look really stupid and it looks really pathetic. So let's run down this lineage again. Biblos, ancient Mediterranean seaport, Levant. From that, you get Biblos, right? Papyrus scroll, right? Right here, Biblos, papyrus scroll of Semitic origin, right? And then Biblion, Greek, originally a diminutive of Biblos. So this is them referring to the product. Both people are referring to the product here. But they eventually, the Greeks eventually use this term Biblos because the product is that important that they end up naming the whole country Biblos. This is where how the name became stuck to the country because of the Greeks. That tells you how invested they were in the book trade coming out of Africa through Biblos into the Mediterranean. You see where this arrow is pointing. This is not my map. I didn't make this map. That arrow is there for a reason. Okay? Now, and it tells you all the way down to Bible. From Biblion, which is a diminutive of Biblos, and remember, they changed the Y to an I. Nobody's ever shown you that documentation before. That was very important when I showed you that. Because that dispels the other Christian lie that, oh, Biblos has nothing to do with the word Bible. That's a lie. The word Bible comes directly from the word Biblos, which was the name of the country that was selling books that were being manufactured and authored in ancient Egypt. You lying son of a bitches, because that's what you are. And I just proved it. Documented it for you. Documented it for you. Now, you can Jesus explain it away all you want, Alfredo. Go looking for the literature, because I got better literature. This is the kindergarten stuff. This is for people that are just being exposed to it for the first time. This is this is not the heavy stuff. Not even on this. Not even on the role that Biblos played in the literature, transferring Egyptian stories throughout the rest of the Mediterranean and the Aegean. Oh, no. I got the heavy work for you. I got the heavyweight. So one of your real heavyweight boys come out the woodwork and want to get with me, that's when I pull out the heavy stuff. But for you clowns, no. Right now, I'm not even focusing on you. I'm focusing on the listening audience so that they can learn and be taught properly. That's it. That's all I care about. I care about them being taught properly, so that when they're discussing these matters with their children and a little black child looks at their mom and says, "Mommy, tell me about the Bible. Is that God's book?" She can say, "No, honey. That book is just something that some people made using everybody else's story." Right? If you really want to have fun with people, just ask on your job and your family, what's the oldest book in the world? Watch how many people say the Bible. The Bible doesn't even come close. It's one of the last books. The Bible doesn't come anywhere close to being the first book in the world. Homer's Iliad and Odyssey is older than the Bible. So how can the Bible be the oldest book in the world? And the Greeks came to writing very late. Very late. Come on, people. Van Sertima. May he live forever. Dr. Van Sertima. Absolutely. No, this is from Van Sertima. The events which transpired 5,000. Actually, no, you're correct. That is Dr. Clark. This is Dr. Clark. Yes. From Contribution to Nile Valley Civilization by Professor Tony Bowder. All right? Love that man. Absolutely respect him to the utmost. And his daughter, Atlantis. Okay. Okay. So let's go. Okay. Here we go. We here to get it. We're gonna give these Christians, because every time I do a video, they get their little segments that they want to break down for their audience, and they go back and they, okay, this is what Shaka is saying. My thing is, if I'm so wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about, why would you pay attention to me? I don't get that. Why don't you go watch Alfredo and Adam and all the rest of you that want to take my videos, and why don't you go watch somebody who knows what they're talking about? Why watch me if I don't know what I'm talking about? Am I really that much of a threat that you're watching me like that? I must be. But you feel like you got to stand at the door front Everything I say, explain it away. Yeah, I must be making waves, boy. I got the important Christians. Y'all just deal with regular Christians. I got the super Christians watching me. The apologetics, the apologists. Taking my video. They're watching right now. Taking notes. Yeah. Are we going to debate that? Are we going to show where he's wrong about that? No, I ain't wrong about nothing. You need me to be wrong. Your ability to process and interpret appropriately and correct. And see, here's the worst part that these little Christians will have a problem with. Everything that I'm saying and demonstrating is connected to and going to be borne out and substantiated by far greater things that I introduce down the line. That's why I said, I love when they make their little videos. They react fast because they got to save them. They have to save their lie. They have to protect their lie. So they react fast, not realizing that when you react, you're not reacting with enough information. You're not reacting with enough information. I have more information in the top part of my ear on this stuff than you have in your whole congregation combined, in your whole Christian apologetics community combined. I have to slow drip this stuff so that people can follow where I'm taking you to. I have to go slow. Okay? So slower, not too slow. Boy, if I do this for the Christians, see how things slow down when I start talking to them and about them, because that's how slow they are. So let's do this. Okay. So yeah, your word Bible is a direct reference to an Egyptian phenomenon. What? The books and the stories coming out of Egypt. Because those books and those stories were coming out of Egypt into Kubla, and it was the Biblos themselves, the books, the scroll, papyrus scrolls, that were the most important commodity, the books that were the most important commodity going throughout to the Aegean, they in turn named the whole country after these books and called it Biblos. From where you get your word Bible. So every time you say the word Bible, you are referring to books that were coming out of Egypt into Biblos. You morons. You can't change that. You're going to try to because you need to. But these are the facts. All capital letters. Facts. And I love it. Because you can't change it. And there's over 100 people watching this right now. Some of them are probably from your congregation. Like that weirdo from New Orleans who likes to watch me. He's a Christian minister, but he can't help but watch every presentation that I do. You know why? Because it is. See, all my haters ain't just from the conscious community, although that's where many of them are. I got haters in the Christian community too. So I get it from both sides. So, but you know what they say? It's lonely at the. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. But that's what we're doing over here. We're doing this. See that? That's what we're doing over here. Dropping bombs, knowledge bombs. Okay? Absolutely. And then they get mad when I don't come back. You always come and leave, no consistency. That's a lie because this is the third or fourth installment in this series. So at the very least, I'm doing one a week. So you owe me an apology, Mr. What's on your feet? You owe me an apology. I have been being more consistent. And I want my apology. Go to my Cash App. Put something in it. That's your apology for misbehaving and saying that I haven't. But that's how mad they get when I don't come back. It's not that I don't come back. I do come back. But I have to study. I have to make sure my facts are tight because these people would love nothing more. They would have a field day to be like, look, we got Shaka, blah, 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 blah. You know, he's wrong and all this other, no. So anyway, yes, this is where your word Bible comes from. So every time you say the word Bible, you should send some money to a Kemetic organization. Every time you just say the word Bible. Because without Egypt, without those books, nobody would have been talking about Biblos, from where your word Bible comes from. Nobody. Nobody. The Latin would not have replaced the Y with the I. The Greek would not have used the diminutives of Biblos, so forth and so of Biblion, so forth, which was the diminutive of Biblos. The genetic DNA of your Bible goes back to Egypt. Sorry, people. That's just the fact of the matter. That's the fact of the matter. Okay? And in fact, ancient Egypt basically ruled. Biblos was basically a colony of ancient Egypt. That's why so much of its literature was there. It was home away from home for the Egyptians. Okay? You have to remember, their gods, their deities, the deities of Egypt were worshipped in Biblos. So think about that for a second. The place that the place from which your book, the Bible, gets its name, the place, and I want you to always throw this in a Christian's face. The place from where your book, the Bible, gets its name, worshipped the gods of Egypt. In Biblos, the gods of Egypt, Hathor, was worshipped, and Isis, Aset, and others, many others. They were worshipped in Biblos. That's why you have so many Egyptian artifacts there. Yet you think your religion has nothing to do with ancient Egypt. You have to be, woo! It amazes me that in 2022, that there are people still, I gotta say it, that fucking stupid. I just had to be honest and just say it. I mean, I wanted to say it politely. Okay, I'm gonna start cleaning up my act on this thing so I can monetize my videos appropriately. So I have to watch what I say. But sometimes I just want to be just blunt and just say it. You're fucking stupid. Like, you, how historically illiterate are you? Right? I mean, I look at, there's no excuse to be that historically illiterate. Right? Papyrus scrolls, stories. See this? Story. They'll tell you about the papyrus scrolls, but they won't tell you about the stories that were on the papyrus scrolls. Many of which ended up in here. Holy Bible. Biblos. See it? Biblos. That's where this word comes from. And why was it called Biblos? Because of these books. Period. Okay? Sorry, it is what it is. Get over it. Now, let me explain something to you. I was going to hold this back for a while, but I'm finally going to put this on screen. Let me explain to you why most black people, particularly black people, why most black people are unusually ignorant about what we're talking about. This book trade that was prolific in ancient Egypt and was distributed throughout the rest of the Mediterranean world and the Aegean world. Basically the known world at that time. Right? And you can rest assured throughout Mesopotamia. The reason black people don't know about this stuff and why they think the Bible is the oldest book in the world is because they know nothing about the history of books. Nothing. Zero. You ask black people about the history of books, you are talking to the most ignorant faction on the planet. Can't tell you nada. Sorry if I offend you, but I'm telling you the truth. If the truth offends, change your situation. How do you change the situation? By visiting my Cash App and inspiring me and motivating me to come back here and continue to do this and to educate you. That's how you change the situation. Money talk, bullshit walk. Right? We're just going to keep it colloquial. Real talk, right? Black people don't know anything about the history of books. Black people know more about rap music than they know about the history of books. That's why a fool like Eric Mason, who doesn't know anything about the history of books, a fool like Damon Richardson and Vince Bantu, another fool, and he himself doesn't know anything about the history of books. Guarantee it. Put any one of them on the stage with me and watch how quickly I embarrass them. In my opening sentence, I will destroy their whole premise. The worst mistake you can ever make is to think that something I've said on camera is the extent of my knowledge. I slow drip everything. And most of the important stuff I say for debate battle. Okay? But in order to remove the veil off of your eye and to remove the veil off of your face, because none of your teachers have showed you what I'm about to show you. None of your pastors have shown you what I'm about to show you. Your parents have not shown you what I'm about to show you. No other channel or platform. Because without me on it, you ain't going to see it. At some point, you're going to start to understand the relevance and importance of this platform, Hieroglyph, with Shakka-Ahmose. At some point. And if you think you're going to get another Shakka-Ahmose after me, then you're just as stupid as them. Okay? So, let me show you why there's so much ignorance about this Bible and why uneducated black people think that Bible is somehow the oldest book in the world, when it doesn't even come close to being the oldest book in the world. It's because they don't know anything about the origin of the book trade and the book industry. It was a business, just like Harper's and Bazaar, just like Penguin Publishing, just like any one of these, Simon and Schuster. It was a book industry. It was a business. But because people have convinced you that black people were not engaged in business until white people showed up, you don't know anything about your history or your past. You know Tarzan movies, you know the Black Panther. That's about as much as you know about Africa, Wakanda. That's it. But you're stupid. And so I have to come in. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to be shy. You're stupid. And the worst ones are the ones who are stupid and don't know it, because when ignorance clothes itself in pride, you got a Christian pastor. You're having a Christian apologist. And here's how you know that they don't know this stuff. The reason they don't know is two reasons. One, they never showed you. Never talked about it. Never talked about it, never showed you. That's two. So let's look at the third reason. I forgot what the third reason was because I'm tired. But the first two reasons will do. This is how you know they don't know this stuff. They never talk about it, and they never showed you. If they did, they would have made it a point of relevance so that you could understand the Bible in the big picture context. They got this little tiny context, the narrative in the book, and then they made a whole ancillary industry around that. That is insane. But that's what these books were meant to do back in the day. They're not the only ones who did it. It's just how it is. You use an alternative mythological reality to create your supra reality. Not supernatural reality, your supra reality. You get a country, you get a state, you get all kinds of things. Yes, because of a book. Books are powerful. The pen is mightier than the... Okay? So, let's look at it. What I'm going to show you. That nobody is taking the time. And when I show you this, maybe your dumb self will understand what I've been trying to tell you about understanding the book industry and the book trade. Until you master that, don't think that you understand anything about the Bible, because you don't. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're a pastor, whether you got a doctor of divinity, a master's of divinity, you went to this little seminary school, dummies teaching dummies teaching dummies. That's all it is. I hate to tell you that. That's all it is. Dummies teaching dummies teaching dummies. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. Because nobody respects you enough to just tell you the truth. Let alone show you the truth. They can't show you what they don't know. That's why you come to Uncle Shaka. Okay? So let's look at this. Because you got people lying to you, still lying to you, talking about some 19th century Gerald Massey dumb shit and Alvin Boyd and Kersey Gray, 16 crucified Savior. Don't nobody read that stuff. Who the hell is reading that stuff? Ain't nobody quoting from that stuff. Don't get me wrong. I will quote Massey or Alvin Boyd Kuhn where they are correct. Where they are not correct, I will not quote them. I will do that with any author. You should do that with me. Where I'm correct, quote me. Where I'm not correct, don't quote me. It's that simple. It's not hard. Okay? Facts. Facts. It's very true. Walk up and you talk to them in the street, ask them a question, and then they get mad when you point out how stupid they are. Happened to me today. Right? I asked a woman today, no lie, this is no bullshit. I asked a woman today, what was the oldest book in the world? I was just demonstrating it for somebody else. And I asked this strange woman, she was a stranger, meaning, I asked her, I said, excuse me, what's the oldest book in the world? And well, actually, my friend asked her. I told my friend to do it so she could get the feeling of what I was talking about. So my friend asked the woman, she asked her, what is the oldest book in the world? And the other woman replied and said, well, it's supposed to be the Bible, or it's supposedly the Bible, right? Now, when I pointed out to her, look, I told you most people say that. You see? The woman got defensive and said, I didn't say the Bible was the oldest book in the world, but you didn't say any other book. You just said supposedly, meaning that you had your doubts, but you couldn't offer a title of another book. That was my point. And she really proved my point because that is the only title people could think of in antiquity, which makes no sense. Most of the classics were written before the Bible. So if you're a classicist, you know that. You know this. Most of the classics were written before the Bible. You have to be a fucking idiot to say the Bible is the book. You got to be so stupid and so unlearned about the ancient world for you to say that the Bible is the oldest book in the world that, honestly, you should just put a poster up of yourself in your room saying, I'm dumb as fuck. That's the truth. I don't know anything about the ancient world. Let me get on my game. And that's why when I watch these talk shows like Expeditiously or Charlemagne the God, where they try to bring up the Bible and they don't speak intelligently about it because they don't know shit about the Bible. They know about music distribution, selling records, that kind of thing. And I'm not mad at that. But the problem with black people is that they don't respect scholarship. They respect scholarship, not scholarship. Okay? So now, let me restore your mind to the true reality of facts, African facts, real black history, so that you can learn about the original book trade and book industry on planet Earth. Okay? Let's do that. How about we do that together right now? Because if I don't show you, nobody else will. Bunch of stupid motherfuckers out here pretending they know something and don't know squat. Okay? Let's look at it. There we go. Let's look at it. This is from a journal. It's called The Evolution of the Bookstore by A.H. Manchester. Part 1 in Ancient Times, pages 240 to 242. And it's from the journal called The Bookman, A Review of Books and Life, volume 47. Okay? It was published by Leland Stanford Junior University, which is basically the original college of Stanford University. All right? Copyright 1918. Now, what I'm about to tell you, they've known since 1918. Okay? This is a title called the title of this article is called The Evolution of the Bookstore. Part 1 in Ancient Times. Pay attention, dummies, because you've never been paying attention. That's why you don't know shit. You're running around all these other channels and platforms like people are teaching you something. They ain't teaching you shit. that is regurgitating the same old stuff, and they're not showing you the things that nobody else will show you. Okay? Let's do this. If we're gonna be knowledgeable, we need to be able to stand on the literature and say, no, this is coming from legitimate literature. We know it. It's a journal publication, a collegiate journal publication. It's not from some street corner store, from Stanford University, from the original college of Stanford University, right? So let's look at it. Since 1918. This is why I say black folks have no excuse for being as ignorant as they are about these matters. You up at somebody's church on Sunday, stupid as fuck, dumber than the pastor. But ain't nobody as dumb as the pastor. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. So let's look at it. Let's read this article together. Okay? The first fact that we come across in the evolution of the bookstore is remarkably significant. It is that the earliest known books were byproducts of religion. So let's stop with that. Let's start with that. The earliest known books were products of religion. Let's just start with that. Because now you're being taught appropriately. This is the education you didn't get. That's why you don't know shit. Okay? There is no doubt that the first recognized bookstores were the Egyptian temples, and the first publishers, their priests and scribes. This grew very logically out of the Egyptian faith. Therefore, the first religious books talking about resurrection was not the Bible. They were the Egyptian books, or just call it the Egyptian Bible, or Bibles, plural. These were the first book publishers. These were the first bookstores. Wasn't no Bible around. Wasn't no Adam, no Eve, no Steve, no none of that. Wasn't no Abraham, none of that. No Jesus, no Yahweh, none of that. Was in literature. When these people were writing and publishing books and had a book industry. So y'all don't understand it on the industry level. Business. Writing, publishing, distribution, whole industries of just the commodity themselves, the papyrus, the ink, the writing instruments. These were entire industries supporting an economy. Y'all don't know what it means to be black. You think you do. To really be black, you got to know this shit because this is your history. No retarded pastor can come tell me something about a Bible when he doesn't know anything about the history of books. How dare you think because you fell for a fantasy story but you don't know where it came from that you can school someone in a cot on books? Are you insane? You have to be insane to think that you can school me on books. You have to be on crack, methane, methamphetamines, something. You got to be out of your fucking mind to think that you can school me on books. You don't know anything about the history of books. You think you know something about that stupid little book you call a Bible? Compared to what I know, that's a stupid little book. It's a fucking comic book. You don't know anything about books. I'm an authentic bibliophile. I'm the real deal. Are you kidding me? Something got to be wrong with you. Let me read that part for you again. The first fact, hold on. I wasn't even going to share this with you. I was waiting for a special time to share this, to bust somebody in the head with it. But I'm going to give it to you. Because it's going to be here always for people to watch. And those who respect the knowledge will visit my Cash App, $ Shakka-Ahmose. No question about it. That's how I know people are paying attention. And I'm not wasting my time. The first fact that we come across in the evolution of the bookstore is remarkably significant. It is that the earliest, he said facts, the earliest known books were byproducts of religion. There is no doubt that the first recognized bookstores were the Egyptian temples. Not no place in Palestine, not no place in Jerusalem, not no place in Zion, none of them places. The first recognized bookstores were the Egyptian temples. At the Bible, what's the last two words in the Bible? The end. When the ancient Egyptians were writing books that said the end, there was no Bible. There was no Adam, no Eve, no Steve, no Jesus, no none of that. That's how old these Egyptian temples are. So unless you can give me the earliest date for an Egyptian temple, your Bible comes nowhere close to the hundreds of thousands of millions of books that these people produced. The fact that the Greeks came in under Ptolemy and stole them all and put them in the library at Alexandria, which the Jews went in later on and copied from. So you don't know this history. There's a reason why your Christian literature is Hellenistic, your New Testament. Why your Jewish literature, your Torah, and all of that stuff is Hellenistic. There's a reason why. You thought, I don't know what you people think. I really don't. I don't know what you people think. These Christians and these pastors are so stupid that I'm embarrassed for them. I'm embarrassed for their families. That you have a parent that is this fucking stupid and uneducated because of his faith. Get some fucking knowledge and then talk to me about a faith. Get some knowledge first. Okay? Well, let's be straightforward. The Bible was not the Egyptian literature was not the only literature that they took from to create the Bible. That's nothing to be hide. They used other literature. They used literature from Ugarit, Syria. They used literature from Mesopotamia, Epic of Gilgamesh, the Atrahasis, so forth and so on. Right? They used that stuff. But the bulk, the structure, the eschatological structure, the theological structure, the majority of that came from the Egyptian literature. So when you're dealing with the Bible and you're dealing with these religions, whether it's Judaism or Christianity, they're hybridized syncretistic religions. Hellenism, for lack of a better word. How do you think Christianity can be born at the peak of Hellenism and not be Hellenistic? And if it's Hellenistic, it has to include religious ideas from other religions. That's what Hellenism was all about. Unless you're that historically illiterate. And most Christian pastors are, apparently. I mean, I've had white Jews come to me and learn that are more intelligent than these black idiots from, I hate to tell you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. I've had white Jews with master degrees from Columbia University, right up the block, come to me to learn. Well, I got a retarded pastor in Philadelphia who doesn't know his ass from his elbow because he probably hasn't seen his feet in 20 years, trying to teach people about stuff he doesn't know anything about. The earliest bookstores, bruh. I'm going to say it for you slow. Eric Mason, Alfredo Dummy Valentine, Jesus Sneakers wearing Adam Coleman, and what's the other one's name? vocab, madame. The earliest bookstores on planet Earth were the Egyptian temples in the Nile Valley in Africa. When nobody in Palestine could read, when nobody in Greek had an alphabet, we had bookstores. Don't you ever forget that. Anytime you get into a conversation with us about books, bow down. Hold your tongue, mind your manners, know your place, learn your place, and bow the fuck down. This culture created books. Your word Bible is a direct reference to a product that we were producing in Egypt that was being sold through the Levant in Biblos out to the Aegean and the rest of the Mediterranean. And you think that we rely on some 19th century scholars like Massey and Alvin Boyd Kuhn? I mean, some things they got right. A lot they got right. It might sound wrong to you because you're stupid. But a lot they got right. Give them people they just deserves. Just deserves. Okay? Anyway, let's get back to the literature. More showing and proving, less commentary. Okay. Pardonnez-moi. That's me getting rid of all of that pastoral bullshit that I've had to hear for the past week. When the curtain of history rose in Egypt, pay attention, people, because you ain't going to get this on no other channel. You can leave and go to the bathroom if you want. That's why you're dumb now. When the curtain of history rose in Egypt in the first dynasties, some 6,000 years ago, the Egyptians believed that a man's spirit or soul would live as long as his body endured. And during that time would be subject in the hereafter to all vicissitudes that would be possible on earth. That's where you get the idea of heaven from. Okay? The things that you love to do in life, you will be able to do in death. That started with them. Being with your loved ones, you always say, when grandma dies or grandpa dies, what do you say? I'll be with you again on the other side. I'll see you on the other side. That idea comes from Egypt. It didn't come from those other places. Ideas have history. And when you trace the histories of these ideas, it's not a mystery where these Christian motifs were taken from. The first books were written to enable the spirit of the departed to gather itself together after death, to pass safely through all the dangers of the other world and go forth by day, and returned as it pleased to its abode. That's why it's called the Book of Coming Forth by Day, the Petit Imheru, the Book of Coming into the Light, or going forth by day. The open sesames to this privilege were the incantations and rituals which were embodied in what is now known as the Book of the Dead. They can rightfully be called prayers, just to let you know. And I'll document that for you as well. At first, it was probably customary for a person to learn the chapters during his lifetime and to repeat them in his private devotions, the same way you do with the Bible today. You learn Psalms, you learn Proverbs, you learn the book of this one, the book of that, and you repeat them. It was that where you think you got it from, where you think you learned it from. And to repeat them in his private devotions. But it was also the rule for the priest to recite the various sections over the mummy during the funeral ceremonies. The next step was to inscribe the magical verses upon the tomb or coffin. No different than you put biblical verses on tombstones today. Tell me you don't put biblical. Do I got to go to Google and see if they put Bible verses on tombstones and graveyards today? You have not changed the custom of Egypt one bit, because it started in Egypt. But it was also this, right, I read that. The next step was to inscribe the magical verses upon the tomb or coffin. And finally, it came to be considered a great assistance to the soul to copy the ritual upon papyrus and entomb it with the mummy, the same way you bury people with a Bible. Oh, people aren't buried with Bibles today? Huh? You have not changed the customs of ancient Egypt one iota in your Christian religion. Where you think you got all of these customs from? They come from Egypt, from Africa. You're behaving like Africans when you do that. This is why Martin Luther King Jr. said, when Christians today worship Jesus, they are perpetuating the worship of Osiris. He said that out of his own mouth. I have it documented in his writing. You want me to put it on the screen? I'll put it on the screen. Everybody's a liar except for the Christians. The Christians remind you of that one kid in the class who's always saying everybody's lying on him but him. So the whole school is lying on you. Yes. That's who the Christians are. Everybody's lying on them. Celsus was lying on them in the 2nd century. Massey and them was lying on them in the 19th century. Right? And now scholars like James P. Allen and Gunther Dreyer and Jan Assmann and others, Moritz, right, are lying on them in the 20th and 21st century. Everybody's lying on you. You have a lie complex, Christians. You think everybody wants to lie on you, other than the fact that you just live in denial and have a problem with the facts about your religion. Well, it's your problem. It's not mine. And I'm not going to make it mine. I'm just here to teach the people so they can get the answers that would deprive them from childhood. Okay? All of these steps may be seen in the rubrics which accompany the Book of the Dead. The rubric with the first chapter, for example, runs, if this text be known by the deceased upon the earth, or if he causeth it to be done in writing upon his coffin, then we'll be able to confirm, or we'll be able to come forth on any day he pleaseth, and to enter his habitation unrepulsed. The rubric of chapter 125, which contains the famous negative confession, is in part, this chapter shall be said by the deceased when he is cleansed and purified. And if this book be done in writing, the deceased shall flourish, as so also his children, and never fall into oblivion. And if this book be done in writing, okay, it requires but a moment's analysis to discover that we have here all the elements of a publication and book selling system. It requires but a moment's analysis to discover that we have here all the elements of a publication and book selling system. Y'all thought I was making it up when I told you that the Egyptians were selling books. That's how these stories reached the Mediterranean and the Aegean. And the Phoenicians were smart enough to be the middlemen and get paid off of the distribution. This was big business. This is bigger than Simon and Schuster. You got to remember, many of these places were being introduced to books for the very first time. Only the upper echelon could get this stuff outside of Africa. In Africa, almost anybody could get a book. If you had a little job, if you had a good job or whatever, you could own books. You could have your little library. But outside of Africa, in Greece, are you kidding me? In Anatolia, in Susa, Persia, no place. Are you kidding me? To have books? That was big. And then the stories in the books, the kind of impact that they had on people. And these fools think they understand where their Bible comes from. Silly kid. Tricks are for Christians. And we don't have to fall for them. You're an embarrassment. To me, you're an embarrassment to the Black community. So much denial of all of this history that precedes that fake-ass Bible. Because once you learn the history, you realize you can put the Bible in context. Oh, that was the end result of an entire industry that existed prior to. Oh, yeah, dumbass. but you know everything. And because you didn't know it, it therefore can't be true. Wait a minute. I didn't know this, so it can't be true. No, you're just stuck on stupid. And that famous Christian arrogance and that famous Christian pride will keep you stupid. I just feel bad for the children you raise because they're going to be just as dumb and stupid as you. I don't know what to tell you, but it's just the truth. I ain't letting nobody make me stupid. I'm not letting anybody make my viewers and my supporters and the people who invest in this platform and who invest in my knowledge, the people who have enough respect to pay for this presentation, I'm not going to let them be made a fool of. Hell, the people who get it for free, who don't have the integrity and the principle and the character to pay, I said you pay whatever you want. You owe a debt to the people that do, that make this possible. Okay? So, yeah, my audience has integrity, principle, respect. They respect the knowledge. That's why we do this. They about that life. Okay? Let me tell you something. My audience, and this is why my audience pays. Because my audience can go anywhere and teach after I've given a presentation. They can go anywhere and teach. Because they're coming armed with facts. They have the name of the literature, they have the title, the link is there, the page number, the volume. They don't have to wonder where this is coming from. Shaka's not making this up. This is not some little coloring book out of the lines. No, this is the historical, this is the historical record. He got the nerve to say what's documented. Like he's talking about no documentation of Isis as a virgin. The problem is, well, you ain't never seen no real documentation. You ain't never seen no real. I know you ain't seen no documentation. You don't even read it. You don't even read the ingredients on the food you eat. I can tell by the way you look. So if you don't read the ingredients on the food you eat, Eric Mason, what makes you think you're gonna read documentation about history and things of that nature? Okay, come on. I'm tired of these dummies making noise because all they do is make noise. All right. It requires but a moment's analysis to discover that we have here all the elements of a publication and book selling system. Access to the magical lines by the living individual or by his spirit was necessary for any satisfactory life in the other world. It is no wonder that the copies were in demand. And this is no different in Christianity, right? It says here, access to the magical lines by the living individual or by his spirit was necessary for any satisfactory life in the other world. How is that different from Christianity? You have access to magical lines that you have to say to have satisfactory life in the afterworld. What is your magical incantation? I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. That's it. That's it. You want to think you got something different. You don't. You don't. You call it a confession. You call it a whatever you call it. And when we say it, you call it magic spells. You're stupid as fuck. You use psychoeffective biased language. That's all. It's psychoeffective biased language, but it's literally the exact same thing. And you want to think you got something unique. The only thing unique about Christians is the level of their ignorance and stupidity. That is the only thing in which they are unmatched. Facts. But Christians and Hebrews, but Muslims and Hebrews run a close. I met an ignorant Muslim today. I asked him a question. The same question. Well, I don't want to get into it. That's what he said when I asked him what's the oldest book in the world. Yeah. That's like somebody asking you what's 2 plus 2. You have a hard time saying equals 4? Then if I ask you what's the oldest book in the world, you shouldn't have a hard time saying anything. Just answer the question. Either you know it or you don't. And if you don't, be man enough to say, I don't know. Somebody asked me a question and I don't know the answer to it. I'm in a heartbeat. I don't know. Tell me. Teach me something. I'm too busy trying to learn. I ain't got time to stunt on people. Least of all, stunting on myself. Okay? So, Where we at? Okay. It is no wonder that the copies were in demand, and like the Bible's in demand. The copies were in demand, and that anyone who could afford to ensure his existence hereafter by having his body mummified would want as many of the most important chapters of the book as he felt able to purchase. Man, they was making money. Just chapters alone they were selling. The only place where these could be obtained was, of course, the temples. The original litanies were the production of prehistoric priests, and the copyists seem to have been, in every case, the temple scribes. So this stuff was old. The reputed author of all religious books was the deity Thought, from where you get the word thought from, the scribe of the gods. It was declared, this is why you say it's the word of God, or why you say it's God's word, because in ancient Egypt, their Bible was God's word, God in his attribute of Tehuti, or the personification of the intelligence of God. Your problem is not with Egypt. Your problem is with the fact that you don't understand Egypt, and you don't understand why they did what they did. What you call their gods and this, that, and the third, those are just personifications of different attributes of God. Some were more favorable than others. Tehuti, or thought, represented the personification of the intelligence of God, therefore, of that faculty. Therefore, anything that God's intelligence was responsible for was simply personified in the expression of Tehuti. That's it, as an attribute, period. You mad because of how somebody else chose to express how they saw God? That's stupid. And your whole philosophy is based on that? That's really, really hella stupid. Anyway, the reputed author of all religious books was the deity Thought, or Tehuti, the scribe of the gods. It was declared that there were 36,525 different religious books of incantations in existence. Now, if they got 36,525 different religions, and you think the Bible is the oldest book in the world, you got to be, let me tell you how stupid you are. You are 36,525 different religious books worth of stupid. Okay? Only a few, and they say they were religious books. All right? Only a few of these, however, were important enough to be buried in the tombs and thus stand a chance of being preserved. The temples seem to have made a regular, are you ready? A regular business of book production. I'll say it again. The temples seem to have made a regular business of book production. See, y'all didn't know that this is what was going on in Egypt. All y'all ever talk about is pyramids and Ankhs. Y'all don't talk about the business and the trade and the industry of distribution and all of the other ancillary industries that revolved around books. And then you get some Johnny-come-latelys 2,000 years later trying to sell you different pieces of a patchwork story they put together as if it's... So when you read the same things in your books and in your mythologies, but you know it's mythology, they want you to believe that when it happened to them, the very same things, it was real and it was true. That is some David Koresh Dravidic branch cult, Jim Jones type of reasoning. See, with us, it's true. But in all earlier books, in fact, some of the early church fathers said that. I forget who it was, but I'll find it. Yeah, you people are sick. You're sick. You are psychologically warped. Let me tell you something about a just, kind God. If there's an afterlife and you are granted entrance into heaven, And it's going to be based on anything that you said or did. It's not going to be based on anything that you said or did. It's not. Unless you believe in magic incantations. And if you believe in magic incantations, just tell me what you got to say. What's your magic incantation so that you go to heaven? You accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? You got to say that? Because you notice you got to say it out loud. You never ask somebody, keep it to yourself. You don't have to let nobody. They got to say it out loud. Do you accept Jesus Christ? You got to profess it. Okay? Magic incantation. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be. Magic incantation. Because if somebody started saying that in a language you didn't even understand, you would think, oh, they're doing magic incantations. Prayer, magic incantations, same shit. It's the same thing. You think that by uttering these words, you're going to cause something to happen or something to not happen. That's magical thinking. Sorry, but it is. I don't need to read a psychology report to know that. Okay. Where are we, people? Yeah, book selling books. You want to talk about that. You want to talk about all this dumb shit they talk about when they talk about Egypt, people eating each other and blah, 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 blah. Crazy shit that they talk about. Instead of, why don't you talk about the fact that this is where the book industry, like you just wrote a shitty book, Eric Mason, called Urban Apologetics. That lineage of book selling and production, that goes back to Kemet, ancient Egypt. Without them, there would have been no urban apologetic book. There would have been no books. It wouldn't have been no books. So you could take your urban apologetic books and throw it where it belongs, in the garbage, because it's written by an idiot man that doesn't know anything about literature or history or facts of history, real publications, doesn't know anything. I'm disgusted by the fact you think you could even step in this arena. Any of you. I have more knowledge about this stuff in my little pinky than you have all collectively together. Damon Richardson couldn't tell you about the history of books. And they're going to go do some studying, can't find the stuff that I'm talking about. And then they're going to find some weak shit and say, no, it started in Rome. It started in, what's that place? Illyria, in one of the Greek city-states, Thrace. That's where it started. No, it did not. It didn't start in Rome. The book industry did not start in. This is the stuff that they covered up. This is the stuff they left in obscure journals. Why? Because of the politics of history that still go on even in modern times. That still go on even in modern times. A reputed author, okay, we got this, right? Where are we? Oh. The temple seemed to have made a regular business of book production. The copies were not always made to order, but were prepared beforehand and the name filled in afterward. So they had storehouses of books already written. And all you had to do was have your name put in it. In fact, this was done in place in one of the most important copies of the Book of the Dead, which has come down to us, the Papyrus of Ani. So they have evidence of this sitting in the British Museum. And they want to tell you Shaka's making this up. Eric Mason, you should be ashamed of yourself. Talking about all this 19th century dumb shit. Ain't nobody talking about Massey and Blavatsky and your fantasy of Egyptomania. That ain't got nothing to do with the Kemetic community. That has nothing to do with the African-centered community. That has nothing to do with Shakka-Ahmose. But you want to sell that bullshit to your congregation, because as long as you can keep them stupid and feeding out of your fake Jesus story, you can sleep at night. Your power and authority is not undermined. Because that's what it's all about, mind control. And that's what people like Eric Mason are into, controlling your mind. He derives his authority from the Bible, and the rest of you it's open season on your mind. A man who has fully invested in literature, he doesn't know anything about, he doesn't know about the pitfalls of it. He doesn't know about the dangers of it. That man could be studying Satan's manual and wouldn't even know it. Watch out who you follow. Be very careful of people who read and worship shit they don't understand. Didn't Stevie Wonder say that? Very superstition, writing on the wall. Very superstition. Da, 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 da. When you believe in things that you don't understand. Superstitious is the way. Something like that, you know. I'm trying here. Yeah, you don't understand that Bible. How do I know you don't understand it? Because I know way more about it than any of you will ever know about it. And you won't know it unless I teach it to you. There's too many things about that Bible that's hidden from the eyes of profane history. You have to do extraordinary research to know the kind of things that I know about that Bible. That's why to me, this is nothing. This is this is the easy shit. But I gotta go slow with you because there's so much that you people don't know about the basic shit. What do I look like showing you the upper echelon stuff? We got to get past basics. First, you got to know where books were being made, where the book industry came into existence on planet Earth. So you have a white person or somebody talking about black people got low IQs. Nigga, you wouldn't be reading or write a book if it wasn't for us. The fuck are you talking about? People talk about Timbuktu in books. Fuck Timbuktu in books. We was doing books before there was a Timbuktu. We was doing books long before there was a Greece. Or a Rome. Or a Jerusalem. We was doing books before that. Before there was an Israelite community, we were doing books. Book trade and industry. Documented. Sorry. Because they're going to tell you no documentation of it. I just read this, I guess, off of a Chinese fortune cookie. That's what he's going to tell you. Dumbass, because he never heard it because nobody ever exposed him to the facts. Remember that TV show, that 70s show? What did the father always call Eric? What did Red always call Eric? Dumbass. That's Eric Mason. That's Pastor Eric Mason. That's Alfredo Valentin, Adam Coleman, and Damon Richardson. Collectively. Let's all say it together. 1, 2, 3. Dumbass. You don't know anything. If you knew, you would have been teaching this a long time ago. You would have told your people where books come from, how the book industry was established on planet Earth. It started in Egypt, in Africa. Okay? Same place your Bible came from. Yeah, I have no problem with admitting the Bible comes from Africa. That don't make it African. It don't make it black, and it don't make it true. Because you got to know the particulars behind all of it, like I do. For the record, the book is fake. Period. I'll look you in your eyes and tell you, the Bible is fake. Fake. Okay? Okay. And if you don't know that the Bible is fake, it's because your knowledge of it is way down there someplace. It's like a child who believes in Santa Claus, trying to convince their parents that Santa Claus is real. What would the parent look like acquiescing to the child's request? You know that meme? When the person goes like that, how they do it? That girl, she'd be like, what you want? What you talking about? She cracked me up. Right? So, where are we? There is no doubt that look at this. There is no doubt that the temples received payment for all copies of the ritual. But what the prices were, we could only conjecture. it may be worthwhile recalling the materials with which these ancient priests, who were both publishers and booksellers, worked. Let's read it again. It may be worthwhile, you dumbass pastor, recalling the materials with which these ancient priests, who were both publishers and booksellers, worked. And you wonder, and you think your Bible is the oldest book in the world or even close? You got to be the dumbest person on your block or in your church. Can you imagine that many dumb people in one room? That many historically illiterate, religiously illiterate people in one room for every church you go to. That's deep. That's deep. And why is it important to break this down with Christianity in particular? Not that the other religions aren't guilty of it, but as I documented for you in the last broadcast, Christianity came up with an all-subsuming system to colonize all known knowledge. So until you free your mind from Christianity, your mind and all of the other knowledge that you should know and need to know and are supposed to know, you will not have access to. Christianity stands between you and your brain. That's why I do this. It is restoring Black people's minds, reconnecting it back to history. So you can think and see and feel your way through the world with a much more complete, informed perspective. And you don't have to let fakers, fools, and phonies like Eric Mason, Vince Bantu, Damon Richardson, Alfredo Valentin, and Adam Coleman, and Vocab Malone come at you with some bullshit. They couldn't educate my youngest child if I had more than one child. If I had more than one child, not one of them could educate my child because they're too stupid, historically speaking. You could not educate my child. You don't have enough knowledge in your whole body to educate my child, my youngest child. That's how stupid you are. And the worst part is you're stupid by choice. I have no respect for somebody who's stupid by choice. I'm not required to or obligated to. You're stupid by choice. Well, stay stupid. Oh, that's going to be my t-shirt. Next t-shirt I get. It's going to have a, oh, I like that. It's going to have a crucifix. And it's going to say, stay stupid. You already know that's $1 million idea. I should have shut the fuck up because y'all got it now. I always have $1 million ideas. Anyway, it's time to profit off it. But I publish it right here. It's on film. It's my idea. If you do it, I'm going to say you stole it and take you to court and sue you. And then kick your ass. Okay. I might kick your ass first and then take you to court. In fact, we could both meet in court. Me for kicking your ass and then me for suing you. So just don't counter sue because I need my money from suing you for stealing my great idea. Stay stupid. Because that's all that shit's going to do. Keep you stupid. Okay. This is the industry that the Phoenicians tapped into in Biblos. So now do you understand what I was talking about when I said there was a book industry in Egypt? And when they tell the history, they lie by omission. They make you think that the Greeks were just coming to get papyrus scrolls. What they're failing to tell you, it's called lying by omission. They tell you the truth. The Greeks did go to Biblos to get papyrus scrolls, but they just leave out the fact that stories were on the papyrus scrolls and they were being disseminated throughout the known world. And this is where people were getting their ideas from about resurrection, about how people should be buried. Many things that you see, what you think is Christian, writing something on somebody's tomb and all of that stuff. Even having the body buried, right? as opposed to cremated or something else left in the wild, or blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff started with these people, the people of Kemetic, Tamari, ancient Egypt, in Africa, in the Upper Nile region. That's where its origins are. You have a problem with that? Oh. If you really want to go into its origins, it's not even in Egypt. It's Nubia. Nubia is the true origin. Nubia is the mother of Egypt. But y'all don't want to talk about that. Nubia. Nubti. Nubti. Kusto. Northern Sudan. Right? You try to tell a story backwards about those pyramids in the Sudan, have people thinking that those came after. Those are the original pyramids. Those are the original pyramids. But the way they tell history in the world, they got you thinking opposite. That those pyramids in the Sudan, those 90-something pyramids, however many they got you thinking that those are the last pyramids. Those are the first ones. They got you thinking those civilizations like Kush and Tasseti, they got you thinking that those were copies of Egypt. Bullshit. It's the other way around. Yes. They're not going to tell you that. But when you control information, I showed you the documentation, what Christianity did to control all knowledge from the time they came on the scene. They had a system of embracing all knowledge. That wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when they demonized the sources from where the knowledge came in order to monopolize power. That was fucked up. That's Christianity deserves the ass whooping of all time for that. That's how I feel about it. And that's why I'm giving it to you. I'm a slow drip it to you, though. You're going to wonder every broadcast I do, what's he coming with next? Because you're not ever going to be able to anticipate it because you can't think your way through this. You can't navigate your way through this. You haven't been to the reaches I've been to in this endeavor. So just sit along, enjoy the ride, and watch your religion become exposed and dismantled and your stories exposed and dismantled every time I do a broadcast. Yeah. You're going to be shocked when you see where this goes. If we're blessed enough to get there. Well, motherfuckers is visiting the Cash App. We'll get there. Here we go. Hold on. Okay. So, here we go. Where are we? Here we go. It may be worthwhile recalling the materials with which these ancient priests who were both publishers and booksellers worked. The papyrus scrolls were made of crisscross layers from the pith of the Pt.3. In the papyrus of Ani, there are 3 widths of the pith laid side by side, making a total width of 1 foot and 3 inches, and 6 lengths fastened end to end, with a total of 78 feet. Sorry, guys, I'm doing this without my glasses. Parchment was known as early as 1400 BC, but was seldom employed. The reed used to write with only from 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch in diameter, and was bruised on the end, so that hieroglyphics were rather painted than written. In fact, the scribe employed a palette to work with. Illuminations and illustrations were common, and various colored inks were used for this purpose. These were the people writing the books. Do you see the scrolls up top? Look, dum-dum. Pastor Eric Mason, ain't no Bible here. These were the people producing the first books. Okay? Go check out Leland Stanford Junior University, the original college for Stanford University, and get a copy of The Bookman, a review of Books in Life, volume 47, pages 240 to 242. You can't see me, boy. I told you you're a little boy to me. The rolls of papyrus were often tied. The rolls of papyrus were often tied with a papyrus cord and sometimes protected with a clay seal. Important rolls were kept in wooden cases, which were themselves guarded in what? The house of books. They actually had a name for it, the house of books. I forgot what it was called. The Persesh or something. I forgot what it was called. The Perseshat. I can't remember. The house of books. In fact, I could show you in I could pull it up in one of my other PowerPoints. We reproduce several ancient Egyptian pictures illustrating scribes at work on papyrus, as well as the tracts in which the rolls were kept. The temples gave instruction in writing, and the occupation of scribe probably offered the best chance for a boy to rise. In the 3rd dynasty, for example, Amton tells how he rose from a scribe to the guardian of the western frontier, and princes and nobles often retained the title of scribe among their many honors. There is little doubt that all of the copies of the religious works were made at the temples, but the official biographies, records, and annals of the kings and nobility were probably produced at the palaces. Whether the tales of adventure like that of Senehat or Sinuhe, who we just read earlier in the 12th dynasty, were originated in the temples or palaces or by some independent scribe is uncertain, but the mere existence of a non-religious literature suggests the possibility of secular publishers and bookstores. That's how deep and intense the book situation was in ancient Egypt. It wasn't just for literature. It got to the point where it was, in the Middle Kingdom, secular literature. They had multiple genres. Multiple genres. Y'all don't hear me, though. They had eschatological literature, literature dealing with the hereafter, resurrection, commandments, if you will. Right? People are something else. See, now you could speak about something you couldn't speak about before. Book publishing and book selling in ancient Egypt. An industry. And now you understand its relationship to Biblos, Beirut, modern Beirut, Phoenicia, Tyre, Sidon. Anyway, so now you understand Biblos and its importance with the book trade. This is what the Phoenicians were doing. They were coming here, getting books, or books were being transported to Biblos from Egypt, making its way to the Aegean and Mediterranean world, as well as other regions. And look, they had to pass through the Levant to get to Biblos. So we know that the Jews, so-called Jews, the Israelites, they had their hands on them books. Huh? Don't they show you Joseph reading and writing the hieroglyphics? He learned how to read and write. But these Hebrews were always learning how to read and write in Egyptian. Moses, Joseph. Yeah, okay. So back to the book, Isis in the Ancient World, because we ain't done with it yet. What does he say on page 111? What we need to remember is that Egyptian religion. So by the way, before we finish, so when you talk about this word Biblos, coming from Biblos, or Biblos coming from Biblos, first B-Y, then B-I, they changed it. I showed you where they changed the I to the Y to the I. and then going, progressing to or evolving to Biblion book, or transposing the Biblion book, originally a diminutive of Biblos, and then ta Biblia from Biblion, Greek, then ecclesiastical Latin, Biblia, to Bible, Old French to Bible, Middle English. I'm not making this up. This is where your name of your fucking book comes from. Biblos, referring to the books coming out of the book industry created by ancient Egypt. And by the time Alexander and them came, it was out of control. You talk about books? Oh, we're going to be looking at the work of Salim Faraji. Oh, yes. The way they disrespected him when he tried to communicate with them, I witnessed it firsthand. Oh, no. Salim Faraji going to have his revenge on this platform right here through me, if he allows me to. We're going to look at his work, and this brother deserves his credit for the contribution he made with that article. Wonderful, wonderful article. Beautiful article. You damn right. Because they lie about the books and the literature. They make it seem like the Bible was this special piece of work. The Bible, what they don't tell you is that when many of the manuscripts that were found, the original, the most oldest manuscripts they have of the Bible, the majority of them were found in the garbage in Egypt, in trash heaps, in pushed together inside of books with other books, as if it wasn't no one story. It was like a genre of literature that was included with other genres of literature that had nothing to do with religion or anything. See, they lie to you about everything. This whole thing, if you ever want to see a conspiracy, the Bible, Christianity, all of that is it. Is it. Yeah. Come on. Tell the truth. That's where your stories are coming from. Right? Ancient Egypt, Kemetic Africa, Papyrus Scroll, stories, books, Bible, in that order. From here to here, a sequential order. In fact, and then back. Because you got to remember, it went out, went there, and then came back and conquered Egypt. And you wonder why all them stories are as crazy as they sound? Please, people are crazy. Remember, the story of what they say in the book, Introduction to the Bible, the story of Moses' flight into Midian following the murder of Egyptian overseer may draw on the Egyptian tale of Sinuhe. Okay. So next time you use that word Bible, every time they do, just say Biblos, Egypt. Bye. What we need to remember is that Egyptian religion was undergoing developments over an enormously long span of time, and that sometimes there exists deep down beneath the apparent theological discrepancies, what? A core of unity. So they want to make you think that Egypt didn't have its shit together theologically. Stupid. You just, again, not understanding something you're talking about. What did he speak of at it? A core of unity. As with other gods of Egypt, he, Osiris, could be addressed as a bisexual being. I wouldn't use the term bisexual, but that's it. You are father and mother of men, as he's referred to in the text. They live from your breath and eat the flesh of your body. Oh, hey, don't y'all eat the flesh of Jesus' body? Wonder where you got that from. Let's read that again. You are father and mother of men. They live from your breath and eat the flesh of your body. Talking about Osiris, not Jesus. As resurrectress. See, this is why they don't like the Isis story. Because she is the resurrectress. Like, wait a minute, you can't give something that powerful to a woman. Why not? That's the role she had. She was resurrecting people before Jesus or Yahweh. So give Isis a just due. As resurrectress of her brother husband, Isis could be held responsible for both aspects of impregnation in a most miraculous way. Tradition has made Osiris her husband, her brother, and her son. Tradition has made Osiris her husband, her brother, and her son. So too in Paleo-Christian thinking, Mary was Christ's sister, mother, and consort. Mary was Christ's sister, mother, and consort. I'll leave that one alone. Now, you got to bring another misguided brother, miseducated brother into the fray. This gentleman genuinely believes, Pastor Jerome Gay Jr., he genuinely believes that the Kemetic community got all of this from Zeitgeist. Why? Because like a typical short-sighted Christian, like that other nutcase saying that it's all from 19th century scholarship, I tell you, they live in an echo chamber. Eric Mason said it, so this dummy says it. And that's what he is. You're a dummy. I got to tell you, when it comes to this stuff, you're a dummy. All capital letters, dummy, D-U-M-M-Y. Did I stutter? Okay? He says, and I'm going to show you, know, I don't put words in people's mouths. Out of his own mouth, this pastor said, they're getting this from the Zeitgeist video that was popular on YouTube, and they're presenting it as scholarship. You idiot. I haven't shown anything from Zeitgeist or YouTube. You think that journal I just read from is from Zeitgeist or YouTube? You moron. That's what you are. I hate to say it. Call them what they are. They're running around YouTube saying all of this nonsense because they're scared of the facts. The facts ain't gonna lie for you. The facts are not gonna lie for you, Jerome Gay Jr. Okay? They're not. You know how I know the facts are not gonna lie for you, Jerome Gay Jr.? Because they told me so. The facts actually told me so. They said, don't worry. We ain't gonna lie for him. That's what they told me. They said, we ain't gonna lie for him. The fact says so. So you honestly think we got all of this from Zeitgeist? You know why? Because that you're too lazy to read, so that's where you got it from. Dumbass. Now I tell you this is what they all are, dumbasses. Call them by their name, dumbass. Like the guy from that 70s show. I shudder to think that somebody's parents is this stupid. Okay? Hold on. That's what they're doing. That's what he says. They're getting this from the Zeitgeist video that was popular on YouTube, and they're presenting it as scholarship. Okay, here's what we got to realize. Facebook has given pseudo scholarship and Google scholarship a platform. Yep, and there you are right there. Google scholarship and a pseudo scholarship. Because if you would have done your real homework, you would know that those of us who are really about this life, we don't deal with no Zeitgeist or no 19th century scholarship from Gerald Massey and all that dumb shit. But y'all don't even bother to do your research. You just as dumb as the people that quote them. That you are. You just as dumb as the people that quote them. That's why you think we read that stuff. What kind of stupid are you? And you're going to say, Shaka, don't lie on that man because he didn't say that. That's what you're going to say. Okay, well, let's see.
They're getting this from the Zeitgeist video that was popular on YouTube. And they're presenting it as scholarship. Because here's what we got to realize. Facebook has given pseudo scholarship and Google scholarship a platform.
Told you. I told you. You thought I was making it up. This is the shit they're telling their congregations. They're not mentioning any real literature. They're not mentioning any real scholarship. They're not mentioning any of that. These are the new lies that they're peddling. That we are getting this from Zeitgeist and YouTube and all that. I mean, it is unbelievable that they're saying this. Just because one of our elders told us to read some of those people, so what? Okay, we read them and we moved on. Big deal. Who's quoting them? Zeitgeist quote them to take your beef to Zeitgeist. Why are you bringing it to us? Do we come to you for the shit Jehovah's Witnesses do? Do we come to you for what, I don't know, whatever these other the Mormons do? Do we do that? No. They do their own thing. You claim your theology is biblical theology, right? The anti-Nicene fathers and the creed, all of those bullshit, right? How would you feel? We just lumped you. Well, we do lump you in because they're all stupid. But what does that have to do with us? So Dr. Clark said we should read them. We read them. A lot of people did pick up some incorrect ideas from reading them. So what? They studied more and realized if they were smart within a short period of time, Massey's stuff is not reliable. Kuhn, a lot of Kuhn stuff is good. A lot of it is not good. Some of it is not good. Kersey Graves, I wouldn't waste my time reading. Blavatsky, never read a book by her a day in my life. I don't know anyone who has. Oh yeah, I do. Probably the Moors. Now, the Moorish Science Temple in them, they are into Blavatsky and all of that stuff. Okay, we don't, that metaphysical bullshit and all that. We don't know. We are African-centered. This is the African-centered community. We deal with the real deal. Period. Period. Yeah, bro, this is what's going on. You actually said this. They're getting this from the Zeitgeist video that was popular on YouTube. Yeah, this is what they're teaching. This is the bullshit. And you wonder why I'm up here trying to save your brains? Yeah, I'm up here trying to save your brains because idiots like this.
They're getting this from the Zeitgeist video that was popular on YouTube. And they're presenting it as scholarship. Because here's what we got to realize. Facebook has given pseudo scholarship and Google scholarship a platform.
Okay, people. This is what's going on. The miseducation continues. They need to vilify us. They need to make us look like we don't know what we're talking about, so that when people hear us, they'll think we're passing on something from Zeitgeist or from what's the other thing they say? Oh, just YouTube. Look, I'm not responsible for the bullshit on YouTube. I'm not responsible for Zeitgeist. I'm not responsible for the idiots that were allowed to be on the other platform that I used to be on. I'm not responsible for none of that. Okay? So if people hear that stuff and they believe that, that's on them. What that got to do with us? Respect the knowledge. Respect the knowledge. And I'm not talking about no Zeitgeist or no YouTube stuff. Respect the knowledge. You don't have no choice. Because you don't respect the knowledge, trust me, the knowledge is not going to respect you. It's going to spank you bad. Okay? It's going to spank you real bad. ISIS, listen to this. And this is what they don't tell you. ISIS was an insidiously dangerous foe for Christian theologians because she was believed to give her worshipers their daily bread. a bitter struggle had to be waged. See, they don't tell you about this struggle that they waged to beat the religion of ISIS. It was a war. They don't tell you about this war that they waged against the religion of ISIS. A bitter struggle had to be waged before the Greco-Roman world at last accepted Jesus instead of ISIS. Among the reasons for the keenness of the conflict, none was more important than the claim made by the upholders of the Egyptian faith that their goddess was the wonder worker with the gift of healing the sick. Because you got to remember, what made Jesus famous more so than anything else was his ability to heal the sick. But what you got to understand is that was a big thing at that time. Whoever was a healer was basically the hand of God. Okay? Okay. Tell you what, I'm not even going to lie. I'm going to stop here because the level of exhaustion that I feel right now is kind of getting a little scary. So rather than go any further, I'm going to stop now. But there is something that I just want to say before I go. And that is, stop letting these people intimidate you with their stupid little videos. I wouldn't bother wasting my time, not right now, responding to their little videos that they're making about my presentations. They're literally too stupid for me to care about anything they're saying. Why would I care? I don't care. You know, so no. Because they couldn't teach me. Here's the thing. They can't teach me anything I want to know. That's why I made it a point to pursue my own line of inquiry so I could be responsible for the answers that were forthcoming. And it really is just that simple. Okay? Now, for those of you who appreciate it and respect the level and girth of knowledge and depth and width of knowledge that I shared, remember, this was not a free broadcast. The 18-hour days that I put in to study and read and put this stuff together to make sure you have responsible information that you can refer to, right? This stuff has to be paid for. It's value in exchange for value. Okay? I'm not out earning my bread and butter. I'm studying earning my bread and butter. I'm coming to present to earn my bread and butter on this platform. So even though it does say support, contribute, and invest, bottom line is pay for the information. It adds dignity to the process. It adds respect to the undertaking on all sides. My thing is, I don't care what you pay. I really don't. I don't care what you pay. Just go to Cash App, $ Shakka-Ahmose, and say, Shaka. Why? Because that payment that you make, that's how you tell me you want me to come back for a part 4, a part 5, or just move on to the next subject, whatever it is. That's how you let me know. Money talk, bullshit walk. Okay? If these people could take care of their pastors for lying to them, you should be able to take care of your teachers for freeing your mind and liberating you. It makes no sense that those who lie are rewarded and those who give and share and impart and do the due diligence are left to fend for themselves. That's not right and that's not fair. And I don't accept that. Not for my audience. My audience is a reflection of me. I'm not talking about those of you who are just here for fun and games. I'm talking about my audience, those people who respect knowledge and who really understand the importance. The reality of it is that if it was that easy to know, all of you would be up somewhere teaching this stuff. You would have known about the book industry that came out of Egypt and went into Biblos. You would have known about the stories that were being transmitted from one country to another, starting in Egypt and then proliferating and diffusing outward. You would have known all of that. And I have direct documentation for all of that, much more than what I just showed you. This is just a skeleton, something we can get through so you can have some understanding. Okay? It really is that simple. So I don't even know how many more pages were left, but I am too tired to really, I'm gonna be honest. Normally my stamina hangs in there, but right now I'm just like, I am too tired. I'm too exhausted. So I look forward to seeing the motivation from you guys when I'm done. I'm gonna take a look. I'm gonna be like, yes, they were paying attention. Because that's another thing the Cash App shows me. When I look at my Cash App and I see that people, subsidize what I do, it tells me they're paying attention and that they really value it. So pastors, stop lying. I'm not done with you yet. We have some ways to go. And this is just the end of part 3. Okay. The other ones are like 5 hours. This is 3 hours and change. Yeah, that's it. $, Shakka-Ahmose. That's the most important thing I can tell you right now. I can't tell you anything else because I really am that tired. Right. So I'm gonna looking at comments myself. Hold on one second. Yeah, facts. When you're that tired, you go to sleep for about 4 hours and wake up thinking you about 12 hours. You got 12 hours sleep. Man. No. Okay, he said, what's a shaka? I have a lot of people trying to degrade your name. Or I hear a lot of people trying to degrade you. I told you earlier why they degrade my name. Because they're lonely. It's lonely at the top. Everybody can't be me. Everyone doesn't command the kind of appreciation, respect, and awe that is conferred upon me. Okay? It's jealousy. The same reason most people crap on somebody's name. Jealousy. If they want to be jealous, that's their choice. I really don't care. They wanted to have that awe. They want to sit in that circle of they're the man, but they're not the man. They're not. They tried to be the man with me before and got embarrassed publicly. Then they really wanted to go to war with me. Everybody knows that. 2 of them got embarrassed at the same time. And that's just a historical fact. But that's the past. I'm not bringing that up. I'm not going back there. But the fact of the matter is that, I will come at your juggler, historically speaking, and whatever you think you're going to put up, I will show you to you in its proper context and why it should be dismissed or accepted. And you can't cry later if you're talking smack now. Right? I ain't talking smack about nobody. I ain't naming no names. But that's why people speak badly about my name. Jealousy. I don't care. There's no Cash App, and of course you can go to PayPal. I know PayPal all over the world because its founder or the person who bought it is from South Africa, Elon Musk. Right? Here you go. So if you want to go to PayPal, there you go. forevershakka@gmail.com. I accept payments at PayPal, forevershakka@gmail.com. It's on the screen and it's in the chat. And I also accept comments at Cash App. It's just the most direct way to receive payment. That's all. It's hassle-free. Just transfer, and I can get back to business. It's that simple. So, forevershakka@gmail.com. I'm really exhausted. I'm going to read a few comments and then I'm going to get out of here. Okay? All right. Here we go. Stay up much longer, you're going to start getting loopy. I'm already there. I fell asleep twice. Y'all didn't even notice. Pastor Mo, Larry, and Curly. Yep. Facts. Facts. Yes. It was a very bloody war. Yes, it was. Okay. It's real, dude. Sometimes, look, hey, Vladimir, people are not as stupid as, people are only as stupid as they allow themselves to be. And if you don't do it, see, I've always, from the time I was a child, I had a burning desire to know the truth, what was really true. I had a burning desire to know. And so when I got older, before the age of the internet, long before the age of the internet, I just determined that I was going to get the answers. I ain't had no internet to go to. I had to go to bookstores and buy books, spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on books, like university books, Yale, Harvard, Oxford, and read them from front to back, you know, so that when people asked, I could speak responsibly, you know, and that was way back when I first started. So imagine where I am now, okay? Okay. So yeah, no question about it. If you've seen it in a dream, it's your mind resonates with rationale. Okay. Oh my gosh. Yeah, sometimes that's how they make you feel. Like you want to cuss them out. But I'm not. Facts. Thou shalt tell a lie over and over again until you believe it. That's the 11th commandment. You know? Facts. Okay, guys. I'm out. I'm done. I cannot keep my eyes open another second. I will see you tomorrow. Yeah, you won't have to be waiting weeks and weeks and weeks. This time it took another week for me to come back because, like I said, I've been booked to speak and participate in very special events. One of which is coming up on the 19th of this month on Tuesday. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see the latest video is an advertisement and a promotion for it. So go check it out. You'll really like it. That's it, people. You have my love, genuinely, and my respect. And if I said anything to offend anyone that happens to be Christian or pastor, then I did my job. Okay? Because I know the truth offends you. And you really hate facts. Okay? So, with that, people, Sebawe, Professor Shakka-Ahmose is gone. I'm actually going to make myself something to eat because I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. That's all I can think about. It's hard to teach while I'm thinking about food. But anyway, you have my love, and I will see you all tomorrow. And this ride is going to get, as we go, yeah, I'm going to expose you. I'm going to show you everything that they've been keeping from you that you need to know. Because they just lie. They lie because they don't have the larger context. And when you don't have the larger context, it forces you to lie. So you lie even if you don't mean to lie, even if you don't want to lie. which is really sad about Christianity because it makes you a liar. You're forced to restrict your mind to this one little milieu, and you think that that's the reality. You're not well informed. Anyway, Uncle Job Seneb, Hotep.